Good morning once again, and welcome back to the Planet Doug podcast for Monday, June 30th. Let me double check that. Yeah, Monday, June 30th. It's about 10:30 in the morning, and I've recorded a couple of these podcasts sort of in quick succession. And I guess I just was in the mood to do it, and I felt like I had a lot of things to talk about. But this one is coming to you courtesy of I don't get it, I don't understand it, but another illness. The last time I was here in Tanjung Balai, staying in the same hotel, eating at the same places, I got really sick and for a long time. And then just a couple of days ago, I fell ill again with the exact same illness. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe my neighborhood places, one of them, I don't know, could be preparing food in an unsanitary way, or I don't know what's happening, but anyway, so yeah, I'm a little bit homebound right now. And it's a bit unfortunate because this past week I noticed a big carnival opening up in my neighborhood, and I was quite interested in going to check it out. To be honest, not so much for me, because I've been to these neighborhood, like traveling carnivals quite a few times. So it wouldn't be a particularly new experience for me. But in terms of the visuals, it would make for a very interesting video to show people what Carnival in Sumatra looks like. So I went there on my bike, and then I went there on foot while they were setting up, and I got a chance to chat with one of the men who works there. He has a food stall. This particular carnival looks very, very heavy on the food side of things, which kind of makes sense because when I ask people, what do you call these? I don't really know what you call them. In Canada, I would call it a carnival, a traveling carnival, something like that. But I don't know what the Indonesian word is for one of these things. And everybody was telling me it's a night market, pasar malam. But that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But when I took a close look at it, I saw they had a lot of white tents. And they look like they're going to be food places. So maybe it is much more of a food market, but with a couple of the traditional rides, like the swinging pirate boat, trains, Ferris wheels, things like that. And they had one of the big drums where they ride inside the drum on a motorcycle. It's kind of like a daredevil show. It's really quite fascinating. So combine all of that, I thought it would be a very interesting thing to show on video. And I was going to go on Saturday night, but on Saturday there was a double whammy. I got hit with this illness again, so I couldn't go outside. I couldn't go more than 10 feet away from a bathroom without disaster striking. And then Saturday night, anyway, it rained heavily. Well, not night so much, but late afternoon, it rained heavily, and the skies were overcast, and it would have been the first night for this carnival. And anyway, I couldn't go even if I wanted to, and even if I was feeling good, I don't think I would have gone just because of the weather conditions. And then came Sunday night, which was last night, and I hoped to be able to go, and in fact, I tried desperately to feel good enough and rested enough to be able to go, even for just a few minutes, but there was no way. I couldn't leave my room, so I didn't make it to the night market, and that was Saturday night and Sunday night, and those were the big nights for this night market carnival. I noticed there's so much activity out on the street. I saw spotlights down at the carnival. I could hear loud music, tons of people going up and down the street, a festival atmosphere. So it would have been good to go, but I couldn't go. And if I feel better quickly, I hope I will, I could still go tonight or Tuesday night or Wednesday night or something. But I don't know how active the carnival will be on a weeknight. I wanted to go on a weekend, but anyway, that ship has already sailed, I think. So that's too bad. So that's the main thing going on with me, being ill again, but I'm hoping it won't be as serious as last time. I'm hoping I can recover quickly. The signs are positive that I will recover quickly. I'm feeling better already, but of course I haven't eaten for 2 days, so that always makes me feel better. And then if I eat, then I suddenly get sick again. So I may head out today, make a dash to a pharmacy and just try a series of antibiotics. I mean, I don't feel like this illness deserves antibiotics. I don't think it's that serious, but you never know. So I may go pick up some antibiotics today and complete a course just to make sure if there's any kind of bacteria that I've developed that keeps coming back over and over, goes dormant and then comes back and goes dormant and comes back. Maybe I might have to wipe out those little critters. I don't like antibiotics because antibiotics are indiscriminate. They wipe out everything. And I've got all kinds of friendly critters in my digestive tract who live there happily, and we coexist, right? We all do. And I don't want to wipe them all out. My, what do they call it? Your biome? They call that like the colony, the ecosystem of bacteria that live in your stomach and elsewhere. Do they call that your biome? I may have that wrong. But anyway, I don't want to like drop a bomb on that and wipe out everything, and then you start over with nothing living in you, right? Anyway, we'll see what I do. And then the other thing going on right now is I still plan on going for a bike ride, and the plan all along has been to ride my bike from here across Sumatra to Sibolga on the ocean, on the coast there, via Lake Toba. I don't plan to do a big tour of Lake Toba because I've been there many times and I know it quite well, but I'll skirt one edge of Lake Toba. I don't think I'm going to go to Tuk Tuk or Samosir Island and then do all of the tourist attractions there. But I may go around Lake Toba a little bit and then down the other side to Sibolga. But then I don't know what I'm going to do after that. I don't really want to go on a huge cycling journey, at least I don't think I do. I'm watching the videos from another guy who is currently cycling in Sumatra, and he's reminding me of what it is like out there on those roads, especially if you go long distances with the heavy truck traffic. And he's commenting on that quite a bit, that this is so dangerous and it's so uncomfortable, the roads, and it's very hard to find a small road. They have the big roads full of trucks and then nothing else. There's very little in the way of secondary roads. So, and he's trying, this guy, he's called Let's Go Cycling. He's trying very hard to get off the busy road onto a secondary road, but even he's having a lot of trouble doing it. So it kind of reminded me that you might have a certain mental image of, a cycling journey across Indonesia, but the reality is a lot tougher, a lot less pleasant than you might imagine. Being here is very pleasant. Having a bicycle is pleasant, but actually touring long distances, your mileage may vary when it comes to that. So I don't really have strong plans to, I don't want to ride thousands of kilometers and make it into a big physical challenging adventure. But I would like to do a bit of cycling. And then I have to make a decision about how I'm leaving Sumatra. And I plan to bring my bike with me. And the big decision I have to make is whether I want to exit via Tanjung Balai and take the ferry to Port Dickson, or I could go to Dumai and then take the ferry there to Malacca. And the advantage there is I've never taken my bike to Malacca. I've never taken the ferry to Malacca. I have taken the ferry from Dumai, but I took it to Port Dickson again. And the people at Port Dickson, the immigration officers, they know my face. They know me very, very well. And the last time I went through Port Dickson, they took a hard look at me, and I got the impression that they were gearing up to say, okay, enough is enough. You've been doing this trip, Malaysia, Sumatra, long enough, and we feel like it's time for you to move on. And maybe if I go to Malacca instead, I will have peace of mind going to a new place with the new immigration staff. And maybe it will just end up being better. Like there's a risk. It feels like there's a risk going to Port Dickson that they will say, no, you can't come into Malaysia. Or they'll tell me, okay, you can come in, but we'll give you 1 week and then you've got to get out, something like that. And then maybe if I go to Malacca, I can avoid that possibility. It's just a thought in my mind. But of course, leaving from here is a lot more convenient because I have a bunch of stuff with me that I don't really need for a cycling trip. And it would be convenient to just put it all in a bag, some heavier things that I have, and then I'll just leave them here at this hotel and go for my bike ride and come back here, pick it up before I head back to Malaysia. But if I go to Dumai, I pretty much have to bring everything with me. that I have with me, and that would be a bit of a heavier load. So anyway, there's pros and cons, and today or whatever, I'm going to look at Google Maps and try to figure this out, and then hopefully my illness allows me to leave in a relatively short amount of time, because as always, I'm dealing with visa pressure, and because, I spent a couple of days in Medan, and then I've been here in Tanjung Balai probably for 8 days. Time just gets away from you, because I guess I'm alone in having this struggle, but I took the train from Medan to here, and I've shot a video about that train ride maybe 2 other times, so I didn't really need to do it again, but it's an interesting trip, and I thought, well, might as well take video. So I documented the train ride again. May have been the second time, maybe even the third time I've done it. But then when you land here in Tanjung Balai, well, you have to edit that video, and it takes me 2 days, 2 full days to edit one of those videos, to edit it, export it, upload it. And it's full on. That's like non-stop, almost 24 hours a day for 2 days. It takes me that long, even though I have a super powerful laptop now. And of course here, there is no Wi-Fi, so I'm uploading using mobile internet, which slows things down a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. So by the time you take the train, make a video, 4 days have gone by. And then I booked this hotel room for another 4 nights. And then I wanted to go to the Carnival, so I thought I'd stay through the weekend, but now I'm sick. And I don't know, time spins out of control. And before you know it, your 30-day visa is about to expire. And they have this new system now in Indonesia. Actually, it's an old system that they reintroduced, that getting a visa extension for another 30 days requires a physical visit to an immigration office. So now I have to logistically plan ahead to arrive in a town where I know that has an immigration office, and I know I can settle down for a little while. And then an obvious place to do that is Sibolga. I can ride to Sibolga, get there in time to apply for my visa extension, and then I can visit the Sibolga immigration office for my in-person visit, to have my picture taken for an interview. They take all your fingerprints. It's a pretty complicated procedure. So I have to plan ahead, is what I'm saying. So that is what is going on Planet Doug, in addition to drinking instant coffee. A topic on my mind first thing this morning is the topic of salaries in Indonesia. Like in terms of understanding the way a country works, the way people live their lives, money is a very good place to start. If you're trying to understand people's lives, you have to understand how much money they have, what is their income relative to their expenses. It may seem like a very mundane sort of topic, but money dictates your life. It really does. You have money, you can do this. You don't have money, you can't do anything. And that's just the way the world has always worked. So I do think about salaries everywhere I go, and I've gotten into this habit of asking people in Indonesia, how much money do you make? And I've been surprised at how low the numbers are. They sound high in Indonesian, but they often tell me that they make the minimum wage. So I spoke to a police officer on the train, like a security officer, a young man, and then he didn't give me a number, but he said, yeah, he makes the minimum wage for Sumatra. And I've talked to a government employee, my last trip here, and he told me, yeah, I make the minimum wage. And he said he earned 2.1 million rupiah per month. I spoke to a man who works full-time, like puts in 14-hour days at a chicken restaurant right here. And he told me, yeah, like he makes whatever it was, 2.5 million rupiah a month. And that translates to something like $160 US. Multiply that by 12 for an annual salary, and it is surprisingly low. And I've struggled to understand that, because they tell me how little money they make. Even for Indonesia, that's not very much money. And then I look at their lifestyle, and it doesn't really make sense to me, because with that much money, I don't know how even a single man living in a one-room shack can survive. But these are people who have wives and children and have a place where they live, and they own a motorcycle and a smartphone. And how in the world are you supporting that lifestyle? And interestingly enough, when I was in Medan, I went to a restaurant there, my favorite restaurant near the hotel in Medan. It's on a very famous food street. And there was a place there. I've just gotten to know the owner of the restaurant, and they know me quite well. He speaks English, and they make a nice, filling meal. I generally have like one meal a day, and then so I make that meal a big one. And then there, they know what I want. They give me some of everything, and it's a big filling meal with 2 servings of rice, soup, and then all kinds of dishes. It's a very good filling meal. So I go there all the time. And then I found out that the owner, the man there, he had just come back from a trip to Penang. He and his whole family went to Georgetown, to Penang for a 1-week holiday. So I was very curious about that. And then it turns out that he goes on vacation twice a year. He has children studying in Australia, and then once a year, he and his whole family, they go to Australia once a year for a holiday, and then once a year they go to somewhere like Malaysia for a holiday. And then when he was in Georgetown, he showed me his wife's Instagram account. And I guess she has a very, very in-depth Instagram account with video clips about food. They're real foodies, so when they go to Penang, they visit all the best restaurants and markets and everywhere, trying out all the best local food, and she highlights it on her Instagram account. And then they rent a car, so while he's there, says, yeah, we rent a car, and then we drive around and go to all these places around the island. So we're not talking about a low-budget backpacker trip like I would take to Penang. And again, I was asking him about, okay, how do you handle getting visas and like all the logistics? And he said, oh, I don't do any of that. I just hire a travel agent to do it for me. So he has that kind of lifestyle where he goes to Australia once a year on a holiday, a really nice holiday, and once a year to an Asian country for a really nice holiday that involves a nice hotel arranged by a travel agent, renting a car. And I've never in my lifetime ever been able to afford to do something like that. Going to Australia for me would be an extremely expensive proposition that I can't afford. And yet, so it doesn't make sense to me. You look at his restaurant, and we're not talking about Michelin star rated it's not a fancy place, it's just a little hole in the wall restaurant. This man is dressed in like a dirty t-shirt and dirty shorts with flip-flops. He does not look like a wealthy man, and you look at the restaurant, it's not jammed with people, and yet his restaurant affords him a lifestyle that gives him 2 trips a year overseas with his entire family, where they rent cars and stay in nice hotels. So where is all that money coming from? And then when I meet, like I said, the man who works at this chicken restaurant, he's just a cashier basically, and he makes enough money to buy a motorcycle and smartphones and get married and have children, and I'm sure he goes on holidays. And so the numbers don't make any sense to me, is what I'm saying. Anyone making that amount of money, like a minimum wage in Canada, they can barely get by, and they can only get by because they're living at home in their parents' bed, their childhood bedroom or in the basement or something like that. Then they're not paying rent, and their food bill is really low, and then you can sort of live on a minimum wage. So you're in Canada, you're not going on trips to Australia every year with that kind of income. So anyway, I've been talking about this in my videos, and somebody left a comment on my video on YouTube, and they said that, okay, you've got it wrong, because here in Indonesia, we don't have just one salary. They were saying there's actually 3 different salaries. There's the basic wage, which is what I've been talking about, the minimum wage for workers. But then they say there's also what he calls a functional allowance, which is another bunch of money that pays for food and rent and transportation, all these other things. And it looks like that's equal to your base wage. So if you make 2 million base wage, you get 2 million as a functional allowance. And there's a performance allowance, which is like bonuses, things like that. And that adds up to your basic wage. So in fact, a person who says they make 2 million per month, their monthly salary is actually more in the range of 6 to 7.5 million once you factor everything in. But nobody ever tells me that. Like if I ask someone in Indonesia, how much money do you make a month? They say 2.1 million, 2.7 million, which is the minimum wage in Sumatra. They're not telling me, oh, we make 7 million per month. Once you factor in all of it, they just say 2.1, 2.5, 2.7, like $160 US, not $500 US, which is like triple what I thought. So I don't know what the truth is. And then I asked AI, I wrote out this little essay into Grok, and I told Grok the whole story that I just told you, and I asked Grok, like, what is the truth here? And then Grok gave me a very complex answer that supported what the YouTuber said in his comment, and said that there are 3 different wages. One is called your basic wage, or upah pokok, and that is the minimum basic wage. And then there is fixed allowances, tunjangan tetap, and these are regular predictable payments provided to family employees, such as housing, transportation, family support. And then there is non-fixed allowances, tunjangan tidak tetap. And these are variable payments, bonuses based on performance in your work and things like that. So AI was sort of supporting this idea, but then AI kind of qualified it and said, well, all of that applies maybe if you are a government worker, an official sort of employee, but most people in Sumatra are more an informal sector. Like AI was implying that if you're working as a cashier at a fried chicken restaurant, no, you're not getting all of these bonuses and allowances and things like that. But if you are a government worker, then you are. So, and then if you have your own business, a food seller at the side of the road, something, no, obviously you're basically paying yourself, and you're not paying yourself allowances and bonuses and things like that. You get as much money as you manage to sell. So my friend at the restaurant in Medan, I don't know. And like in his case, as a private business owner, what would his salary structure be like? And I know the food he serves is expensive for Sumatra. It's very expensive, to be honest. Medan is much more expensive than Tanjung Balai for everything. And when I get a meal from his place, I'm not just getting one of his specialties, I'm getting all of them. So I end up paying quite a bit more for that meal than I would normally. But still, his restaurant is known for selling good food at a premium price. So I'm sure he makes a good income from his restaurant. But man, he's got to pay rent, or not rent, but he owns the place, I think. He's got to pay salaries. He's got a lot of overhead. But he still makes enough money to live a really good life. Trips overseas, renting cars, fancy restaurants, all that stuff. So anyway, I was just thinking about that. I wish I could understand that. When I went to the Carnival here, and I was chatting with a man there, I didn't know much about him at the time. The first time I met him, I thought he just was a day laborer for the Carnival, like helped with construction and set up and breakdown and stuff like that. And I asked him, oh, how much money do you make? For me, it's an awkward question to ask. I always preface it with, hey, do you mind if I ask a personal question? And I don't say, how much money do you make? I ask, like, okay, someone with your type of job in Sumatra, like how much do they get as a monthly salary in general? I'm trying to make it not so direct and personal. And then in his case, I threw out the number of because what he said to me, He never said anything. He just sort of talked. He was like rambling a little bit. So I thought maybe he was uncomfortable telling me how much money he made, which is understandable. Though Indonesians will ask me questions like that, like right out of the gate. But then I said, yeah, I talk to a lot of people, and people here, they'll tell me, 2 million, 3 million, 2 juta, 3 juta. I'm tossing out those numbers to him to see whether he says, oh yeah, about that much. But then he seemed to say, no, more. It's like, oh, wow. So you work for a traveling carnival and you make a lot more money than the government worker that I met? So again, now he confused me about salaries. And I found out later on that I guess he has many, many different jobs, but he has his own food stall at the carnival. Yeah, I saw it later on. He makes like this special kind of candy from Java. And so it's a private food vendor, but inside the carnival. But he travels with the carnival. Very interesting. I didn't realize this, but he said they're going to be here in Tanjung Balai for 1 month. And he doesn't know where they're going to go next, but then the whole carnival will just pick up and then go to Kisaran, maybe, set up there for 1 month. And then they'll go to Barastagi and be there for 1 month. And they follow a circuit all around Sumatra. And then he helps with breaking it down, packing it up, getting to the next location. But then he also runs his own food stall, So, yeah. When I went there just to chat with this guy and look around, I became really fascinated. I'd love to know how these carnivals work. Like, can you imagine joining them for a month? Well, you wouldn't want to be with them for a month when they're working like this, because then it's just the same thing every day. But when they're moving, I'd love to be there for that whole process, because I don't know, how many trucks does it take to load? I never saw any trucks there. I didn't see them deliver anything. These massive rides have to be broken down and then loaded up onto trucks and delivered. That must be a fascinating thing. And then the economics of the place. Who owns the carnival? Are there signed contracts? Is it all very informal? And then how do they get the electricity? Must have a massive electricity bill for the month. When I was riding by the other day, I saw some workers up in a tree on ladders, and they seemed to be doing some wiring, like wiring into the city's grid. So they're getting their own special electrical signal, electrical power source. But then how do they pay that bill, and how does money change hands constantly? And yeah, there'd be a very complex thing that has probably developed over decades, but it'd be very difficult to understand right out of the gate. But I would find it very interesting to see that whole procedure. So yeah, salaries in Sumatra, I don't understand it. I don't understand individual economics. I don't understand family economics. And I would definitely like to know more, but it's a very hard thing. I mean, here in my daily life, I try to find out when the train is leaving, how to buy a train ticket, and that is practically an insurmountable obstacle. So it's not like I'm going to be able to understand deeper topics. It's just hard to learn these sorts of things. And speaking of things that are hard to understand, my next topic is going to be technology. Apologies to people out there who do not care at all about technology, but for your benefit, I do put in chapter titles, and you can use that feature to just jump ahead to something else. You can skip technology because I have things to talk about again. But lately, yeah, it has struck me how complicated it has been, or it is, to set up my laptop. As I've talked about, I was given a laptop by a generous YouTube subscriber, and through a long series of communication between me and the subscriber about they wanted to give me a laptop, and we had to make a decision very quickly. And at the time I was here in Sumatra, here in Tanjung Balai, so I couldn't go down to the local electronics market and try out a bunch of laptops and pick them up, and I couldn't go shopping. I had to make a decision along with my subscriber based on research that I did online. And up until that point, all of the advice I got from other YouTubers and people who know about technology, they all said the same thing. And they said, you gotta have a discrete GPU. You wanna edit video, 4K video, and you don't wanna be sitting there for 10 hours, and you want to be able to, you want fast editing power and exporting power, you must have a separate graphical processing unit, what they call, which I just learned this the other day, they call it a DGPU. And every time I saw DGPU, I was confused, like what the heck is a DGPU? I thought I had a handle on the vocabulary, and I thought, okay, digital GPU, now what is that? But it turns out the D just means discrete, which means a separate GPU, because laptops generally have something that processes graphics. And if it's built into the processor, they call that integrated graphics. So if you see people talking about it, they might call it an iGPU. And that is a graphical processing unit, but it's built into the processor somehow. And most laptops, that's all they have. You've got your processor with built-in graphics. And in general, those are not powerful enough to edit 4K video smoothly, and it would take a tremendous amount of time to export. So to do that, you need a completely separate, discrete GPU, and its only job is to do graphics. And then, so that was my starting point in talking with my subscriber about, and then he was suggesting various laptops, and looking back, I think he was a lot smarter than I was. I have a tendency to overthink everything. I enjoy thinking, so no problem for me. I even like planning more than I like executing. So for example, if I'm going to go on a trip to a new country, the planning of the trip and the research, I enjoy that in a way more than the trip itself. It's sort of like I really enjoy systems and planning and logistics and technology, all that stuff. So I love overthinking. It's my habit. But sometimes overthinking can lead you to the wrong decision. So in this case, I overthought, I think, and I came up with this idea that everyone told me, you got to get a discrete GPU. And then if you're looking in the, like trying to keep the costs down, a lower budget sort of option, then you're looking at a gaming laptop, because gaming laptops are the cheapest way to get a D GPU. They're cheaper. I mean, you could, if you want to get a video editing laptop, like a premium, ultra portable, yeah, you can get that, but now you're talking about many thousands of dollars, and that was outside the arrangement I had with my subscriber. We're looking for an affordable laptop that can get the job done, and then I ended up suggesting to my subscriber this one, the Asus TUF A16 Gaming Edition. And the one that was available on the market at the time just happened to have a Ryzen set. Most Asus TUFs, they have NVIDIA, like Intel, NVIDIA stuff. But this one was an AMD Ryzen model. And from what I could tell, that was a good thing in terms of editing video. So that's the laptop that I ended up with, which, as I talked about, was a bit of a surprise because it's just heavier than I expected. I'm pretty sure that in choosing a laptop, had I gone to a computer store and could see this laptop in person and then picked it up, I would have went, whoa, okay, no, that's too heavy. We're gonna have to lower my expectations. But I didn't have the chance to go physically pick it up or see the heavy power brick. So I just looked at the number online, like how heavy it was, and I did some math. I compared it to some other things, and I kind of talked myself into it by saying things like, well, on my bicycle trips in the past, I start every morning with how much water? At least 4.5 liters of water, because I've got 3 water bottles, which is 1.5 liters, 1.5 liters, 1.5 liters, and I might have a water bag with another couple of liters in it. So do the math. If you're looking at 4.5 liters, that's 1 kilogram per liter, right? So if you do the math, now you've got 4.5 kilograms, which is like over 10 pounds of water. So if I get a slightly heavier laptop, let's say it weighs 3 pounds more than other laptops, all I need to do to make up the difference is have one less bottle of water. So 1.5 liters of water, it's 1.5 kilograms, right? 3 to 4 pounds. So I thought, oh, so in order to make room for a heavier laptop, all I need to do is have one less water bottle, and it cancels it out. Anyway, you see what I mean about overthinking? And I went through all of my luggage, and I thought, well, this object I carry around, I don't really need it. That's 1 pound. This one, I can live without that. That's 1.5 pounds. And before I know it, I've taken 10 pounds out of my backpack. So of course I can put in a heavier laptop. So that's how I talk myself into it. So that's a bit of a tangent. It's not what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about is that when I got the gaming laptop, I was surprised at how heavy it was. I'm getting accustomed to it. I'm happier with that. But it's also far more complicated and unusual compared to a regular laptop. I blame all of my technology friends for this. Nobody warned me. I didn't know. I thought a laptop was a laptop, and a gaming laptop, well, it had a discrete GPU and had better heat management. That's what I figured, that's all. But gaming laptops are very specialized, and I've been dealing with that right from the beginning. And in the last few days, I've been going down this deep rabbit hole because I don't understand video exporting. Like, I don't understand what's happening. Like with my laptop, with this powerful discrete GPU, it's amazing. When I'm editing video, smooth as butter. Yesterday, I started working on a brand new video that had 3 video tracks. And the way I do that, I'm very dumb that way, but what I do is if I'm shooting video with 3 GoPros at the same time, each one is shooting 4K video, I just stack it. Like, I don't cut and paste piece by piece. I layer GoPro 1 video, GoPro 2 video, GoPro 3 video. So my entire 1 hour video project is 1 hour of 3 4K video tracks from beginning to end. And the average laptop would self-destruct trying to deal with that. You just couldn't do it. But my laptop handles it no problem. I add text on top of that. I add graphics, like 6 layers of text and graphics and audio tracks. And then my laptop just says, yeah. I don't have to use proxies. I don't have to lower the video resolution. I just put it all in 4K. Timeline resolution is 4K. I play it in 4K. Just breezes all the way through it. Doesn't break a sweat. So from that point of view, the power is off the charts. And the power for exporting is also there, but it comes and it goes. And I'm trying to figure out why. The mystery is, I did some testing the other day that just, my brain is having trouble handling it. So what I did was, I took 1 hour of 4K video and just dumped it into a new video project. So it's got no graphics of any kind, just 4K video, 1 hour. And then I said, export. And it exported like lightning. Just blew through it like there was nothing there. And I could see the numbers. I'm not quite sure I know what this number means, but I think it means frames per second that it is rendering and encoding. And if it's going really, really fast, it's like 130 frames per second. And that's what my laptop is capable of. And then I look at the GPU usage, because you can go into various programs and see how much power is being used, and it's going to say like 100% GPU, like we're using the full power of the engine of this laptop. It's amazing. But then I went to the beginning of the video, and about 3 minutes into the video, I put in one text box, just one. And I wrote into it, Planet Doug, 2 words, text, nothing else. There's no graphics, there's no color correction, there's no transitions, there's no, like nothing at all. It's the easiest thing you can do on a video. Text, you just put 2 words on the screen, okay? Now I re-export. It starts off 130 frames per second, like an F1 racing car. It hits the text box and it slows down because now it's processing graphics, and then it goes down to about 35 frames per second. Though oddly enough, the GPU usage also drops. So that logically makes no sense to me. Because it drops down to 38, 35 frames per second, I figure text graphics are harder to process. Therefore, it must need more power from the GPU, but GPU usage also drops to 35%. It goes from 100 to 35 while it's processing the text box, which is fine. But then, after the text box is done, now we're back to just regular video. It never recovers. For the rest of the project, for the rest of like 57 minutes of video exporting, it stays at 35 frames per second. Slow. It never goes back to 130 frames per second. It never recovers. And that makes no sense to me. Like, why not? It feels like there's a problem, there is a mistake. So that is what I've been trying to figure out. And I should say that in the end, it doesn't really matter in terms of time, because even when it's running slow, it still exports that video in like 30 minutes. So you basically, for my laptop, you cut it in half. So if it's a 2-hour 4K video, it takes 1 hour to export it. So we're still, even when it's running slow, it's fast. So I can spend an hour waiting for it to finish exporting. That's not a problem. But the thing is, I've seen it export a 2-hour video in 10 minutes. It has that much power available. So my question is, why isn't it doing that all the time? Why does it start off super fast, hit a text box, drop down to slow, and then never get back to going fast again? It just stays slow. As soon as it goes from fast to slow, it never recovers. It just stays at a slow export speed. And so with the power of AI, I decided to investigate this and find out more. And while I went down this rabbit hole, I learned all these things about this laptop that I didn't know. And apparently it's common knowledge. Everybody knows these things, but I didn't know. And like when I bought the laptop, it comes with, not when I bought, when I was given the laptop by my subscriber, I set it up eventually. I was in Medan at the time. I was there, hunkered down in my hotel room, and I got out this amazing new laptop, and I was like, oh, okay, let's turn it on for the first time. And I was so nervous, and I like to do things very methodically so I don't make mistakes, and I'm following the instructions. And basically you install Windows, and then you download DaVinci Resolve, and you do the setup procedures, and I'm following the instructions, and I did everything the way I was supposed to do it. But it turns out that if you follow the basic instructions, you're missing out on a lot of steps. For one thing, I didn't know about Armory Crate. It took me a while. I was communicating with Daryl from Wander Eats. He knows a lot about gaming laptops, things like that. And I'm chatting with people. They're like, oh, you got to go to Armory Crate and you got to do this and do this and do this. And I'm like, what the heck is an Armory Crate? It's like, oh, that's the program that controls your laptop. I'm like, well, I didn't know about that. Nobody told me about Armory Crate. It sounds goofy to begin with. What is an Armory Crate? And why do I need it? I know, like all the other laptops I've ever owned, none of them have Armory Crate. It says, no, it's gaming laptops have, or Asus, it's an Asus program, and Asus gaming laptops have a program called Armory Crate, and you're supposed to turn it on. And then you have access to all these things where you can select performance mode, silent mode, turbo mode. You can see GPU usage, you can see fan usage, you can see CPU, GPU usage and temperature, and you can go dive into all these settings. You can make your screen do all kinds of fancy color things, and you can make your keyboard flash lights and all these things that gamers like, apparently. But anyway, you're supposed to turn on Armory Crate. So I'm like, all right, I didn't know about that, but I guess that's what I'll do. And I installed Armory Crate. And to this date, I still don't like it. I don't know what it is, to be honest. And Armory Crate seems very unintuitive to me, very difficult to understand. I don't know what's going on. I'm roaming around all the menus, all the subsections and the tabs and the pages, and I don't really know what it's doing, but there it is. And then, so I knew about Armory Crate, but then when I dove back into this topic in the last couple of days, talking about AI, and AI is helping me troubleshoot all of these problems, and then the AI will make suggestions. One thing we need to do is make sure your drivers are up to date. And everybody says that. And then I'm like, well, that sounds like a good idea. Now, how do I do that? I don't know. How do I update? Do I do that in Armory Crate? Do I do that in Windows systems? Do I do it in DaVinci Resolve? Like, are there different drivers for this, for that, for the other? Yeah, it's one thing to tell me to update the drivers, but you got to help me out a bit more. So I told AI that, and they're like, oh, okay, you're that dumb. Okay. And AI switches into another mode. I'm talking to a dummy here, and says, okay, so what you need to do is go to it's just called AMD Software Adrenalin. So I'm like, what in the world is that? And said, oh, that's the program you use on your laptop to control it. And I'm like, well, I'm already using Windows everything, and I'm already using Armory Crate. You're telling me there's another one called Adrenalin? Yeah. In order to update the drivers, you have to use, Adrenalin. And then that's how you find out. There's a button there, are your drivers up to date? Download the latest drivers. And I'm like, well, where the heck is this Adrenalin? Please tell me. And it says, well, it's already on your laptop. You just have to turn it on. So anyway, so I go into my laptop, and sure enough, there it is. AMD Software Adrenalin. And of course, I activate it, and it opens up all kinds of screens saying, I have to make choices. What do you want to do? This or this or this or this or this, step by step through the installation process. So of course, I went very, very slowly because I understood zero. Nothing on the screen made any sense to me. So I went to AI and I said, okay, AI, I double clicked on Adrenalin, and it says I have to choose between, maybe I have the language here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. No, I don't have it here. It's all on my laptop. But it was something like HD RVL, or do you want quality mode, or do you want HDR eco mode, or do you want, there are 4 modes I had to choose between, and none of them and one of them was the default mode, and none of them made any sense to me. So I asked AI, like, this is what I'm looking at, what is going on here? And then I had to explain. You have to be very careful with AI because they don't know anything except what you tell them. And AI was giving me all this information and suggestions, but it seemed to be assuming I was a gamer. And it should know that I'm not a gamer by this point. But again, I went back and I said, okay, like just to be clear, I don't game, I will never game, I will never play a computer game in my entire life. So let's forget about gaming. I'm using this laptop for video editing, and that's it. That's what I'm interested in. And then the AI went, oh, good thing you told me, because that changes everything. I'm like, oh, for Pete's sake. Oh, what have I done wrong then? But he says, no, it's okay. You haven't made any choices yet, but now based on you using it for editing, I can walk you through the steps. And then we went through turning on Adrenalin using all the right settings for video editing. Because apparently if you're a gamer, you're more interested in real-time graphic display. There's all these programs you can turn on that reduce lag and this and that, all kinds of things to make your gaming experience smoother and better. But then the AI told me, like, all that stuff will probably harm video editing. This is of no benefit to you, and there's the potential that it will actually force your laptop to divert power to this when you don't even need it, or it will use the wrong GPU to do this. So just leave all of that off. All that gaming stuff you don't need. And I was like, thank you. And again, the AI was explaining this in language that I could understand. It was really, really cool. So I set up Adrenalin, AMD Software, Adrenalin. And then AI said, okay, on the home page, click on the button that says update drivers. But of course, I live on planet Doug. I don't live on your planet. I don't live on the real planet. I don't live on any planet that makes any sense at all. I live on planet Doug, hence the name of my channel. And when I go to the home page of Adrenalin, there's no update driver button. I went through all the menus, every page. I couldn't find drivers. I couldn't find updating drivers. I couldn't find managed drivers. Nothing the AI told me to look for existed. And this happens to me all the time. Every piece of technology, every menu, every help guide, anyone ever tells you to look for something, go to this page on that menu, click this, the thing they're telling me to click on, it isn't there. And I always end up feeling like, well, I must not be smart enough. I must be blind. I must be a dummy. You're telling me it's there, but I don't see it. What's going on? So in this case, the AI insisted, no, this is how you do it. Look for managed drivers, update drivers. And I'm like, I'm telling you, it ain't there. And we went back and forth for a while, and he says, well, what's probably happening is that your copy of Adrenalin is like an OEM version, a simplified, stripped down version. So what you need to do is download the full version from the ASUS website. So of course that led me down a massive technological rabbit hole to figure out how to do that. I won't go into all the details there, but I did that. It turned out it was true. I went to the ASUS website and you can download AMD Software Adrenalin, though it called it something else, but it was the same thing. Who knows? But anyway, I downloaded it. And it was very, very complicated. A whole bunch of new settings, new windows, new things. I had to work with AI. I was doing this literally for hours, hour after hour after hour, working through all the steps, trying to understand what it is I'm doing. And then I got this new version of Adrenalin installed. But then, of course, again, I live on planet Doug, so nothing works out the way it is supposed to. I was pretty confident, I was pretty happy that I was working through the proper steps. But then, of course, once you download a new thing like this that changes all these settings, it's a good idea to reboot. And then AI agreed with me, yeah, okay, let's reboot your laptop, make sure that all these new settings come into effect, and we've got a clean slate. So I rebooted my laptop, and then I'm supposed to go to the start menu and then double click on Adrenalin. I go to start, like Windows Start, it's not there. It used to say AMD Software Adrenalin. It was there, the original, But now I've downloaded the full package from ASUS. I go back to my lab, I finished the installation, everything was done, and then when I go to look for it, it's invisible. It doesn't exist. Nowhere can I see it. There's no shortcut to it. There's nothing on the desktop. There's nothing in startup. And I tell AI, hey, I just installed this program, but as far as I can tell, it's just not there anymore. And then AI says, well, don't worry. This is a known bug with ASUS laptops, that sometimes this happens, that when you download something from ASUS, the Windows startup process and shortcut creation, it doesn't register with Windows. I'm like, well, thanks for that. I mean, if I were doing this on my own, I would never ever have figured this out. But the AI told me, it's like, okay, no, the software, it is there, but it just didn't register with Windows. So now what you have to do, and walk me through all these steps where I just have to go to the program files, and then in the program files I have to find AMD Software Adrenalin, find the executable file, right click on it and say add it to the taskbar, create a shortcut and put it onto the desktop. So I did all that, but it still really bothers me because it's not in the system. Like if I go to Windows and say show me all my apps, Adrenalin is not listed there. Even though it is on my laptop, it's not there. Anyway, this really bothers me, but AI told me, nah, that's normal. ASUS is known for having this problem. I'm like, well, for Pete's sake, can't we fix this? Seems like a big problem to me. But anyway, so now on the positive side, I went to the home page of Adrenalin, the new copy, the big full copy, and right there was a big button, manage drivers. And I was like, hallelujah, there it is. The thing that AI was telling me to look for and wasn't there earlier, now it was there. And then I clicked on, okay, let's check my drivers, see whether I have the real ones, the most up-to-date ones. And I went through all that whole process, and I updated all the drivers on the ASUS. And I guess I was supposed to do this when I first turned on the laptop. Nobody told me. I didn't know about Adrenalin. I didn't know about updating the drivers. Well, I kind of knew about updating drivers. That's pretty standard. But in my older laptops, you just do it through Windows. You just go there and you update the drivers and Windows does it for you. But apparently when you have a gaming laptop, it's a whole other world and you have to do it in a very specialized way. So anyway, I went through the whole process and I updated all of the drivers, and then I went through Adrenalin page by page by page by page by menu, item by item by item, and I asked AI, okay, what's this? Explain this to me. What's this? What do I do here? What do I choose there? What do I do? And again, hours and hours and hours went by, and then AI explained everything to me very clearly from an editing point of view. And it was very, very good that I did this, because almost at every stage, the item I could enable or disable was all about gaming. And according to the AI, if you were gaming, turn it on. But since you're not and you're editing video, definitely leave that off. You don't want to touch that. And again, nobody told me anything about, no human told me this. So I went through the whole procedure and I set up that Adrenalin, all the settings, everything there. And then I learned all these other things. That's when I learned about DGPU was discrete GPU, iGPU was integrated GPU, on and on and on. Though I have to admit it wasn't all perfection, because I was still dealing with my basic problem, which was trying to figure out why my laptop slows down when exporting video. And in this case, it seems to be a very weird thing that doesn't make any sense. And then the obvious explanations that AI was giving me just were not true. Like they were saying, well, this often happens due to thermal throttling. So AI would say, well, almost definitely what's going on is that your laptop got too hot and it's got a throttle back. And then I would tell the AI, absolutely not, because when I'm doing this video export, it's only running for 3 minutes when it drops down to slow speed, and I can see the temperature. I can see the temperature in Armory Crate, I can see it in Task Manager, I can see it now in Adrenalin, and it's all within like 55 to 65 degrees. And throttling is not going to happen until you get up to like 85, 90 degrees. So it's cool to the touch, there's no heat being generated. So I told AI, no, no, it is not thermal throttling. So just get that idea out of your head. Help me out, I need another explanation. So we never did figure it out fully, except for this idea that it is a problem between DaVinci Resolve and ASUS laptops, that there is a problem in the way they communicate. And it's very, very complicated, very technical, so I won't go into the whole thing. But the idea is that when DaVinci Resolve is doing something, it tells the laptop what to use. I mean, I guess everything in the laptop decides what to use. Do you use the IPU, the iGPU? Do you use the discrete GPU? Or do you use the CPU? So depending on what the job is, they use different parts of your computer. And apparently, when I'm exporting 4K video, that is the job of discrete GPU. So that's what's being used, 100% power. But the text box in DaVinci Resolve, they decided it's better to use the CPU for that. So DaVinci Resolve is using the discrete GPU, and then it hits a text box, and it says, oh, for this, let's use a little bit of CPU power. Now it uses the CPU power, text box is finished, and DaVinci Resolve, when it switches to CPU, it never goes back to discrete GPU. And basically AI told me this is a glitch between DaVinci Resolve and Windows and ASUS laptops. Based on, I get sees a lot of chatter online, a lot of people talking about this, people facing the same problem I'm facing. And of course, this is nothing I can fix. And then, of course, I went into Task Manager, I went into Adrenalin, I went into Armory Crate, and I was doing test after test after test, and I'm monitoring usage, because you can see it, CPU usage, discrete GPU usage, integrated graphics GPU usage. You can see it. Unfortunately, in each program, the numbers are different. So you don't know which one to believe. I mean, my problem with Armory Crate, or with my perceived problem with my laptop, was that I was monitoring everything in Armory Crate, and it always said 38% GPU usage. And I want more, I want 100%, and I could not get it to go above 38, 35, 38%. But now when I turned on Task Manager, it showed 100%. So Armory Crate showed 38%, but Task Manager was showing 100%, and now that I had Adrenalin was showing 100%. And it was showing, when it was exporting the video, Adrenalin was showing 100% GPU, 100% integrated graphics, and then like 10% CPU. And then as soon as it hit the text box, then GPU dropped down to like 20%, CPU went up to 100%. And then when the text box was finished, it never recovered, and GPU never went back to 100% again. It stayed at like 30%. So I don't know who to believe, Armory Crate, Task Manager, Adrenalin, but through all of this testing, I started to get a sense of what was going on, and yet in the end, despite understanding it, I wasn't able to fix it. I could see what's happening, But the reason that it's happening seems to be under the hood, so deep in DaVinci Resolve, Adrenalin, Windows, and my laptop, that it's making choices about what to use, CPU, DGPU, or iGPU. And it makes choices. Okay, now let's use the CPU, now let's use this, now let's use this. And what I'm trying to do is tell DaVinci Resolve, always use DGPU. Don't give me any of this CPU nonsense, because the CPU is slower. Like, if you're not going to use the GPU, why do I even have this laptop in the beginning? I might as well just have a lighter laptop that only has a CPU and integrated graphics, because that's all my laptop is using anyway. And I cannot force it to use the full power of the GPU. And then the AI gave me all kinds of workarounds, but the workarounds are completely impossible for me, because most people are not exporting 4-hour 4K videos or even 1-hour 4K videos. They're doing 10-minute videos, or they might be doing a video project that consists of many, many shorter clips. So like a professional is going to be working on a 2-minute clip, and then they work on another 2-minute clip, and then a 5-minute clip, and then they combine them. So they can do things like go through that 2-minute clip, pre-render every graphic element. So they go through it and pre-render it, saves it as a fusion clip that's already been processed, and then reinsert it as a complete clip. And now it doesn't trigger CPU usage because it's already been encoded or something. But I can't do that in a 4-hour video with 150 text boxes or graphic elements. I can't pre-render every one of them, switch to another program, save it in a folder, give it a name, reinsert it. I'd be here for the rest of my life. So then I kind of explained to AI, it's like, none of that is feasible for me. My workflow, I just can't do stuff like that. And then in the end, the AI just basically threw up its hands and said, well, there's nothing I can do for you. You've reached the end of the road. And the funny thing is that the AI is so helpful and so encouraging and supporting. And after every time I ask it a question, it would give me encouragement, much, much nicer than a human being ever would, and would say, you have demonstrated incredible perseverance and patience. You've worked this problem as well as it can be worked, and you've figured it out, and you've come a long way. You understand so much more than you did at the beginning. So you've done everything you can do, and you deserve to be congratulated for this. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to fully fix your issue here. We're going to have to keep working on this. It's so nice to me and so supportive and so encouraging. Yeah, it's amazing. So, yeah, I guess that's the end of my Adrenalin story. But the overall theme of that story for me is, how in the world is a normal person like me supposed to know any of this? Okay, you go to buy a gaming laptop to edit video. Well, it comes with all these issues: Armory Crate, AMD Software, Adrenalin. It wasn't part of, like, if you go to buy a car, I guess the manual tells you about, well, the brake pedal, the gas pedal, the gear, the transmission lever, here's the turn signal, here's the window washer, here's how you turn your mirror. Like, it tells you everything you need to know. But when I got this Asus TUF A16, from what I remember, I had all the manuals, I had everything. I went online, I followed all the instructions. They never told me about Adrenalin. They never told me about Armory Crate that I remember. Certainly not in a way that I understood. So anyway, how is a normal person supposed to know all of this? I don't know. But anyway, I've learned a lot. I loved the process. I loved investigating all of this stuff. It was a lot of fun. Very, very interesting. I love all the testing. But in the end, I didn't really fix the problem. one more technology story, and this one for me is so funny and fascinating, and it's smaller, it's shorter. So while I was doing all of this investigating, testing, doing different exports, testing this, testing that, one thing you test, of course, are the settings in DaVinci Resolve, because when you go to the export window, there's a huge menu, and I was working with AI trying to understand what all of these choices meant. What if I choose this? What if I choose this? Would that be faster? Would this be better? Would this somehow trick DaVinci Resolve into not using the CPU? How can I force my will onto this laptop? And the thing is, the main decision you need to make is between a format and a codec. And I don't fully understand what they are, but I basically do. But you choose a format, and then you get something like QuickTime, which is like the Apple MOV format, MP4, things like that. There's a whole bunch of formats you can choose, and they are good or bad depending on the end product, what it is you're trying to do, whether you're trying to upload it to YouTube or not. So you choose your format, and then based on the format you choose, then you are given an option of codecs. And then you have to pick a codec. And then when I choose MP4 as my format, I get a list of 3 options for codec. And this gets very interesting because number 1, I look at the screen, AVI. And then it says H.264, H.265. And then I'm looking at those and I'm confused for one thing, because format, AVI, is like one of the oldest, most established formats. You can choose between QuickTime, MP4, AVI. And I've known about AVI my entire life. It's like audio video interleave or something like that. And it's an older one, and if you use AVI, it's lossless. So everybody tells you, if you use AVI, your file is going to be huge. It's going to be massive, and it's lawless because there's no compression. So I choose, in format, AVI. I don't choose it. But then I go to Codec, and under Codec, under Codec it says AVI. So I'm like, why is it a codec all of a sudden? And I told my AI buddy Grok, okay, I chose MP4, and now I've got a choice between AVI, 264 and 265. Like, why is AVI a codec or a format? I'm confused. And then Grok basically says, no, you are wrong. AVI is a format. It is not a codec. And I would tell him, hey, buddy, I'm looking right at it. It says codec, drop-down menu, AVI. I'm staring at it. I can take a picture of it and send it to you. It is there. You can tell me it's not there. You can tell me it's not a codec. I'm telling you it is there. And then I think Grok probably is thinking, ugh, what a moron. And then it would say, well, if it's there, it's probably a mistake because AVI is not a codec, it is a format, and tells me all about that. And then I was doing an experiment, and I chose AVI as my codec, and I exported the video, and it was one of my test videos, like 1 hour long, and to my amazement, it was 4 gigabytes in size, which is incredibly small. So I'm like, oh man, now I don't know what to believe, because everybody's telling me, oh, AVI creates a huge file, it's massive. And now I'm going back to Grok and I'm saying, listen, buddy, I don't know what to tell you, but I just did an export choosing AVI, and it's 4 gigabytes. I did the same export with H.265, it was 80 gigabytes. 80 versus 4. Like, what is going on here? You're telling me AVI is huge, but what I'm seeing, the evidence is it's the exact opposite. And then I look at the two videos, like I exported both of them. One of them is 4 gigabytes. One of them is 80. That's 80. Massive. And I play both of them, and on my laptop, to my eye, they look the same. I don't see a quality difference. And I'm like, how is that possible? If that's the case, why would I ever use 265? If the video quality is exactly the same at 4 gigabytes, I mean, it would be so much easier to upload. So what is going on? And we went around and around and around and around. And then I went somewhere else. I was investigating this whole AVI business somewhere else. Oh, I remember now. Yes. There's a program out there you can download from the internet called Media Info. And this is a very tiny program. I love it. I use it all the time. I had never downloaded it to this laptop, though. I used it on my phones, and I've used it elsewhere, but I kind of forgot about it. But what it does is it tells you all the technical data about a file. So if you have any kind of a text file or a picture file or video file, anything at all, you load it into Media Info, and it gives you a complete breakdown of all the technical specs, the codecs and the formats and the this and the that, and it just helps me understand what's going on. So anyway, Grok said, hey, use Media Info and look at these 2 videos, and maybe that will help you understand what's going on. I went, oh, yeah, I forgot about Media Info. So I did that, and I entered the AVI video export into Media Info, and I saw all the things, but then it looked a little bit different to me. And I was talking to Grok, and I says, well, in Media Info, it also tells me this is an AVI video. I'm telling you, it's right there. But then I said, however, the I looks a little bit like a 1 now. Does that make any sense? And then Grok went, we solved the mystery. Congratulations. After this long experimental process, we finally figured out what's going on. Yes, that is a 1, not an I. It is not AVI. In the codec, the format is AVI, but the codec is AV1. But of course, the I, capital letter I, looks almost exactly like the numeral 1. So when I saw it in DaVinci Resolve, to me it looks like an I. So I kept seeing AVI, but it's not AVI, it's AV1. And according to Grok, AV1 is this brand new codec. It's this amazing thing that does super compression and yet keeps high quality. And there was like a reason, there's a drawback to AV1. I can't remember what it is. Like there's some reasons why you shouldn't use it. But for certain situations, it might be suitable. And then Grok was telling me that, well, completely by accident, you might have stumbled across something that can help you out a lot. Because when I'm shooting a video like this, me just sitting here, static background, I don't need high resolution. I don't have to worry about compression. So maybe AV1 for this video is the way to go. So then I end up like a 4-hour video is going to be just a few gigabytes as opposed to 80 gigabytes, which is very, very difficult to upload. So, but anyway, the point of that story is all of this confusion, everything was based on the difference between a 1 and the capital letter I. So I kept saying the codec is AVI, but it wasn't. The codec was AV1. So you got to be very careful about that. Yeah, it's just the way the modern world is, right? Especially on a computer where an I can look like a 1. Like when it comes to passwords, serial numbers, it's very easy to mix them up and you keep typing in the wrong thing because it's a 1 or an L. 1 L and I, that's a real problem in English. Anyway, I was so happy to finally figure that out. AVI versus AV1. One's a format, the other's a codec. Don't get them mixed up. The American Hobo, Daniel from the United States. He's a YouTuber who's cycling. Started off in northern Vietnam, and he cycled all the way through Vietnam, all the way through Cambodia, all the way through Thailand and into Malaysia. Something like 4,500 kilometers, I'm guessing, and he did the whole journey on a bike that he bought for $100. So a pretty basic bike, starting to fall apart, but still running. Pretty amazing. But anyway, the American Hobo, he is in Ipoh right now, and he set himself the goal of posting one video every day for 1 year. And his videos are usually like 1 hour long, so it's a pretty big deal. And he's doing all of his editing, all of his exporting, all of his uploading on a smartphone. So he shoots video with a Pocket 3, DJI Pocket 3, but then everything else he's doing on a smartphone, no laptop and anything like that. So it takes a lot of time. But he's still doing it. And right now he posted one video from, well, the new videos that I've watched from him was Cheap Bicycle Across Malaysia, Day 13. And the one thing that jumped out at me about that video was that he rode by what he calls Skid Row. And it's like the area in a city where the homeless sleep. So there's often like one street where a bunch of homeless people have sort of gathered, and then they sleep on the sidewalk there. Like it's a neighborhood that in the United States or Canada we might call Skid Row. I don't really like the term because it is definitely pejorative, I find. It has a negative connotation, Skid Row, which, okay, if you're homeless, but I mean, being homeless is not negative in that way. Like Daniel, for example, for him, it's not a life failure being homeless. It's a life choice. He chose to be homeless because of the advantages and not having the financial pressure of being a homeowner, full-time job, all the bills that come in every month. You know, there are advantages to being like a travel vlogger, having no home and being homeless. It's even on his YouTube channel. I think he has like his slogan or his byline. Let me look it up real quick. So for his YouTube channel description, he writes, "An American hobo unleashed on the world. The good thing about being homeless is that I can take it with me." So that kind of relates to when people talk about money, you know, you can't take it with you. Like when you die, what's the good of trying to become a billionaire? Like when you die, you can't take it with you. And then you can relate that to sort of life in general. It's great to be a homeowner, own property, own cars, own nice stuff. But at the same time, once you go traveling, well, you can't take it all with you. So what's the point? So anyways, a little bit of a play on words there. So anyway, Skid Row, I don't know what else to call it, a hobo village, maybe? But anyway, he found this street in Ipoh, and he can connect with these people because he's been sleeping on the streets in the United States and staying in homeless shelters and things like that throughout his lifetime. And then he talked about how he was reluctant to take any video because when he was sleeping on the street, sometime like poverty tourists would go by. Someone goes by in their expensive Lexus or Mercedes, and they're filming out the window of their car, capturing video of the poor homeless people and kind of posting that to social media, things like that. So he doesn't want to bother them because he has this kinship with them. But he's also a YouTuber, he's a vlogger, he's recording his life on video. So he thought, I'll be respectful, but I'll take a little bit of video. I'll walk up and down the street and show you the homeless of Ipoh. So I found that kind of interesting, and I wrote a comment on his video talking about that when I was in Kuala Lumpur, I noticed the homeless. They're very visible in Kuala Lumpur and in Georgetown, in Penang. And in Kuala Lumpur in particular, because I was staying in one hotel can't think of the name of it, but it was right on a street or an intersection of 3 streets with a small park where there's a lot of homeless people. It's kind of near the central market. There's a street there with some flat benches and platforms. A lot of homeless sleep there at night. And then the street beside my hotel, they were all sleeping on the sidewalks there. There's a lot of them, both sides of the street, and then in the park. And quite often, like on the weekend in particular, church groups or temple groups would show up in a car, and then in the trunk of the car, they'd have 100 box lunches, and then they give out a lunch to all the homeless. And the homeless know about this, and they all gather there waiting. And this would happen in Georgetown as well. I visited a temple there, a Buddhist temple, and then one day a week or something like that, on a schedule, a charitable group would show up, and they park their vehicles outside this temple, and they hand out food to all the homeless, and all the homeless gather there to get their meal. Though it always did strike me as a criticism of the homeless that how many of them would eat the meal or eat half of the meal and then just toss the rest with all the containers and the garbage on the ground. I don't kind of feel like I'm very anti-litter. I'm a pure Canadian that way. I dislike like tag style graffiti. To me, that's just vandalism. I hate that. I hate litter bugs. I see someone throw garbage on the ground. It's just, oh, it really bugs me. And then you have these homeless people, and out of the kindness of their heart, people come and give them free food. If I were in that situation, I would sort of make a point of it to find a trash can for the container, for the garbage bag, for the chopsticks. I wouldn't just toss it on the ground, on the sidewalk, on the street. But after one of these food deliveries, the neighborhood would be just a disaster area, like a garbage dump. And of course, they might eat only half the food, and now we've got rats and mice and cockroaches feeding on all this garbage. And it just makes a huge mess. And it seems like it's not very logical for the homeless either, because they are sleeping in public places, and they don't want to cause trouble, because if they cause trouble, someone's going to call the police, and there's going to be this big problem, and they're going to get moved along, like get out of our neighborhood. So you'd think if they're sleeping on the sidewalk in front of some sort of a building, they would try to be as neat and tidy as possible so that they don't get kicked out. And the worst thing you can do is just leave piles of garbage everywhere. But I see that in homeless encampments all the time. It always struck me as not a very logical thing to do. Anyway. And I noticed that, it's interesting. The whole world of the homeless is interesting. And I noticed in Kuala Lumpur, on a couple of the streets where the homeless were sleeping on these sidewalks because the building had an overhanging roof, which gave them shelter from the rain, and they put down cardboard and things like that. But then the owners of the building, in order to drive the homeless away, some of them, they install a sprinkler system on a timer, so that at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, midnight, once, 2 or 3 times during the night maybe, the sprinklers turn on and spray the whole area with water. So of course, if a homeless person is sleeping there, they get driven out because they're going to be soaking wet. So then you'd find that the homeless wouldn't sleep there because of the sprinkler system. So you end up with a lot of tension between the homeless, business owners, and local residents. It's a delicate balance that you're trying to maintain. And I noticed in the main homeless area that I'm talking about in KL, it became a homeless area partially because the central market had a lot of open space where the homeless could find room to sleep and hang out during the day. And then on my street, all the businesses were closed. The buildings didn't seem to be used, but over time, the whole area was becoming modernized. A coffee shop opened up here, a little shop here, and slowly but surely, these businesses started to reopen, and every time they open, they have a new shop front. The homeless can't really stay directly in front of it anymore, and then the homeless had to move on, find somewhere else to stay. And you see a lot of homeless along the Klang River in Kuala Lumpur. So for the American Hobo, day 13 in Ipoh, I found that to be an interesting part of his video. Then he posted another one, day 14, cheap bicycle across Malaysia. He discovered the street art of Ipoh. And I guess Ipoh saw, like the city people, the city government, and the local businesses, they saw the success of the street art in Georgetown. It really boosted tourism. So they decided to do the same thing in Ipoh, I guess. And they hired that Lithuanian street artist. I'm not sure I can say his name. I think I made a note of it here somewhere. Ernest Zakarovich. Ernest Zakarovich. So he made the original street art in Georgetown, and then the government in Ipoh commissioned him to do the same thing in Ipoh, and then it did have a big impact. It raised the level of tourism, and local businesses like that. So then they started commissioning their own street art, in certain alleyways and certain streets became art streets. And they put together tours with maps, guided maps to show you where to go to see the art. And then local artists, not being paid to do it or commissioned, they followed suit and they started painting street art. And I love that, of course. I said that I hate graffiti, but when I say graffiti, to me that's very distinct from street art. Street art, wonderful, amazing, love it. Graffiti, hate it. It's just vandalism. So in terms of semantics, I don't think of street art as graffiti. I think of it as just tagging with spray paint and just making everything look ugly. So that was his day 14 video. And then day 15, he just posted it today, and I just watched it this morning. And he went out on a bike ride and he went up and down the river there. And that was quite interesting to me, because that river is called the Kinta River. And as far as I understand it, that whole valley area south of Ipoh, that was where a lot of tin mining took place. And they call that the Kinta Valley. And if you look at Google Maps, there are dozens, maybe hundreds of little lakes and ponds. It looks like northern Ontario from Canada. And it's a very unusual geography for Malaysia. They don't have landscapes of lakes and ponds. They just don't have that in Asia in general that I'm aware of. But there it is in the Kinta Valley. And as I suspected, it's because of tin mining. Every one of those little lakes is an old tin mine. They used those massive dredges and they dug open pits. And then when the tin was all extracted and the mine was abandoned, filled up with water, and each tin mine became a little pond, a little lake. So there's hundreds, dozens at least, maybe hundreds of these lakes that are old tin mines. So he didn't go that far on his bike ride. He rode along the river, beautiful like bicycle path alongside the Kinta River, turned around, and he went to a food court. The 66 food court had a meal there, and then he was talking about all the food he can get there and how much it cost and the meal he got. I wrote two comments on his video talking about the Kinta Valley and all the tin mines, and I told him my understanding of these food courts, that the drinks stall, they are the owners usually of the food court, and all the vendors, each individual food vendor pays rent to the drinks people. And then so you basically order your food from the food vendor, bring it to your table, you pay the food vendor directly, but then someone else comes to your table to take your drinks order. And then you're sort of expected to buy a drink, because the cost of the drink is like renting the table space. It's sort of an unofficial policy that, okay, come into our food court, but you must buy a drink from us. I don't think you 100% have to. Many times I don't. I'll say to the guy, no drink today. I would almost never get a drink, because for me, drinks are expensive relative to the food. You might get a meal for 11 ringgit or something. He paid, I think, 6 ringgit for his meal, But then if you get a good drink, it can be 5 ringgit for the drink, or 3 ringgit. So it costs almost as much as your meal. It doubles the cost. And I would prefer to have nothing to drink and just have water anyway. So occasionally I'll say, no drink. But then I feel like if I go back to the same place several days in a row, every third day I'll get a cham, like an iced cham, and say, yeah, today I'll have an iced cham. I feel obligated. And I love iced cham anyway. So yeah, the meal I have at in Kuala Lumpur, my favorite food court near my hotel, I would get noodles, basically a really, really nice breakfast of noodles for 9.50, 9.5 ringgit, and then I'd get cham ice, and it would be 3 ringgit. So it's like 33, a third of the price of the meal, but it's a lot of money when, to be honest, I didn't even want to drink, because I'm usually sitting in my hotel room and I've had 3 cups of coffee. So then I go out for breakfast. I don't really want another cup of coffee with breakfast, and I don't want a fancy fruit drink because they're expensive, and so I don't really know what to get. So I don't really, but anyway, every third day I'll buy a drink because I feel like it's part of our unofficial policy. So I mentioned that in a comment for Daniel, and I don't know if he's going to reply. He usually replies to my comments. And I told Daniel that if he was thinking about riding his bike, when he leaves Ipoh, he's going to go through the Kinta Valley, and along the way he's going to pass that huge dredge. There's one dredge there that is still in good condition, or it's old, it's falling apart, but it's there, and it's like a tourist attraction you can go see. And I've always wanted to go look at it. I've never gone there, so I told him about that. So maybe he'll do that. But he's not really traveling to look at all the attractions. He's doing it more for just being on the road, and he was really interested in the street art, so he made a point of filming as much of that as possible and giving a lot of information about it, like where the location of all the art alleyways are, things like that. Yeah, so I'm all caught up with the American Hobo. And I'm still following Let's Go Cycling. I still don't know his name. I don't know. I think he's from Morocco, but I don't know that for sure. His name never comes up. Like in my case, you watch one of my videos, I think you know my name pretty quickly because I called the channel Planet Doug. And one of my ideas for choosing that name, the main idea for me was to get across this idea that in my world, things happen that don't happen anywhere else. Like all of my technology problems, everything I deal with, it only seems to happen to me. So on Planet Doug, it's like a separate reality. So that's partially where the name comes from. But also I like the idea that my name is in the channel name. So like you get a channel like Itchy Boots, you start calling her Itchy Boots because, oh yeah, Itchy Boots went here, but that's not really her name. It just kind of feels weird. But her name is Nora Lee. So then you end up in these weird sentences where, yeah, Nora Lee from the Itchy Boots YouTube channel. Anyway, I like the idea that someone can go to my channel, Planet Doug, and they can leave a comment and say, hey, Doug. Like, they know my name. They don't have to ask me. But in all of my videos in Indonesia in particular, probably 10 times per video, somebody asks me where I'm from and what is your name. So I say my name is Doug over and over again. It never gets across that sound, Doug, doesn't work in Indonesian for some reason. When I was talking with the guy from the Carnival, he kind of struggled with it, and he looked at my channel name. Oh, Planet Dog. And then he joked, yeah, not Doug. There's no way it would be anything as dumb as Doug. It must, oh, Planet Dog. Something like that, the way he pronounced it. And then I says, no, it actually is Doug. That's the English name. And he's like, no, it can't be that dumb. That sounds too stupid, you know? So anyway, I should have called my channel Planet Douglas, because that is easier for people in Asia to get a grip on. But anyway, I like Douglas better than Doug, to be honest, because Doug is really not a great name. And I've commented in the past that if you watch a lot of TV shows, pay careful attention to all the characters that are named Doug. It feels like TV writers, whenever they have a character who's kind of a dummy, he's a doofus, nobody takes him seriously, he's like an average guy, nothing special about him. Oh, that's just, they always pick the name Doug, every single time. Doug is always the doofus, so it's not a great name in terms of a pop culture these days. Anyway, I don't know his name, Let's Go Cycling, so I just keep calling him the Let's Go Cycling guy. So he posted a new video from Sumatra. It's video 44, and the title is exactly the same as all of his other titles, which kind of bugs me because of the clickbait, but he called it Unforgettable. The way they welcomed me here shocked me. And I talked about that in my last video. I always find it weird when a YouTuber makes a big deal out of receiving hospitality. It's like, whoa, it was unbelievable. It was shocking. I couldn't believe. And to me, that's a little bit disingenuous because people have an instinct in every culture in the world for hospitality. I mean, some countries might have a bit more of a reputation for it, or they take pride in it. They go out of their way. But I find every person in the world has an instinct to be hospitable. So to me, it's not a big deal. And it's almost like, it feels like it's kind of insulting to people in general. Like, wow, Indonesia, people were so nice to me. It blew my mind. Like what? Every other country, they come up to you and punch you in the face and rob you? No, people are nice everywhere. And in Indonesia, they're nice. And they have a culture of hospitality. And maybe in Indonesia, it's a little bit intensified because where he goes in particular, they don't see that many foreigners. And so it's a big deal when he shows up. So he gets a lot of attention, and if someone knows how to speak English, and Indonesians are proud of their cuisine, of their food, of their drinks, and then if you're sitting in a restaurant, they want to talk to you. So they'll say, oh, come. And then they'll buy you a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, get some local food, and they will show you hospitality. They're proud of their country, and for them, it's a special opportunity to talk to a foreigner. So you do get perhaps more hospitality in Indonesia than you might get in Thailand, I think. And again, there's a bit of a language barrier and a bit of a cultural difference because Indonesian is a bit easier to grasp. Thai has a very foreign quality to people like me. And the Thai people are just not as interested in foreigners, except as a source of income. Here in Indonesia, they want to talk to foreigners. And Indonesians are very brave socially. Even if they speak very little English, it doesn't bother them at all. The kids just come running up to me and they're all talking in Indonesian or English. They have a lot of courage speaking with foreigners. So maybe for those reasons, it feels like you get more hospitality in Indonesia than you would even in Malaysia, because the Malaysians, there's a little bit more of a modern economy there, and they see a foreigner like me walking down the street, they don't automatically assume that I need help or I need to be introduced to Malaysian food. They let you live your life. They leave you alone unless you need help. And then, Malaysians also offer a lot of hospitality, but they need a reason to connect with you, something that brings you together. In Indonesia, they don't need a reason. They just come at you. So anyway, his title, I'm shocked at how they welcomed me here. And what he was talking about, I think, is that on the previous night, he showed up in a small town and he camps out a lot. And he met these people and they said he can sleep inside their house. But it's not really like a house, but it was more like an open area with a lot of not carpets, but mats on the floor, and I think it's part of a restaurant. And they basically, you can sleep here. And then he was eating something, but I'm not sure whether he paid for it or not. I couldn't tell whether it was like a restaurant and he paid them, or whether they gave him a place to sleep and they gave him food in the morning. But maybe it was that hospitality that shocked him. But there's one interesting thing in the comments I noticed. An Indonesian person or maybe a Malaysian wrote, yeah, that woman from that place, when you were leaving, she said, thank you, like terima kasih, but then she had another word, I think aja, something like that. So when Let's Go Cycling was leaving in the morning, he was saying in Indonesian, thank you, in English and Indonesian, terima kasih, thank you so much, thank you. And someone was pointing out that woman said, only thank you? That's all you're giving us? Like, terima kasih aja? Like thank you only? Like as if she was expecting some money. And I wonder if that was the case. Like maybe that was what she was thinking when they said, oh, you can camp here, and oh, here's some food. And maybe it's understood that in the morning as you're leaving, well, here's 200,000 rupiah for my night of lodging and the food for your, like as a gift, as a thank you for the hospitality. So maybe the woman was kind of taken aback and went, that's all you're gonna give us? Thank you? Like, how about a little bit of money? But I don't know. I listened to that part of the video over and over, but I couldn't quite make out what she said. I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, the comments to his videos are interesting. As a YouTuber, I would find them annoying because it's almost entirely about fear, and I'm not a big fan of the fear culture of the modern world. And it looks like a lot of them are coming, well, they're coming from Indonesians, but also Malaysians. And the Malaysians will leave a comment saying, "Woo, you better be careful in Indonesia. There's so many thieves, so many robbers. It's not like Malaysia. It's dangerous over there." Malaysians seem to have that image of Sumatra in particular. And so you get a lot of those from Malaysians. And then the Indonesians, trying to be helpful, are telling him over and over, ooh, don't camp outside. It's too dangerous because of tigers, the Sumatran tiger. And I find that kind of silly. If you go to Sumatra and you see a Sumatran tiger, man, you will be very, very lucky. Very rare to have a Sumatran tiger. I mean, how many are left? I mean, it's an endangered species, I'm sure. They're going extinct. Anyway, if I were in Sumatra and I were camping out, the last thing I would worry about is a tiger eating me at night. I wouldn't even think about it. Yeah, tigers. I mean, if you're camping out as a cyclist, you're going to be near the road. Tigers are not going to be anywhere near roads or settlements, I don't think. I admit it, I don't know. Maybe every day 10 people in Sumatra are carried off by tigers. I don't think so. I think it would be a very, very extreme minimal danger to the point of, nah, you don't even have to think about it. Go camp anywhere you want. And if you see a tiger, that's a great experience and it's not going to eat you or attack you. But anyway, Indonesians seem to think that there's tigers everywhere and poisonous snakes everywhere. And even Indonesians think there's robbers everywhere. And my experience of Sumatra has got nothing to do with that image. In terms of danger, far more danger comes from the trucks. Just riding a bike down the road. I mean, statistically, compare the danger of being attacked by a tiger and the statistical probability of being hit by a truck. Well, one would be like the tiger attack is infinitesimal, and then the truck accident, being run over by a truck, well, yeah, that's far more likely. That's where the real danger comes from. I wouldn't worry about tigers. I'd worry about the trucks. But again, when I was cycling there, going to Bukittinggi, I dealt with a lot of heavy traffic, but I did notice that they were really good about it. I had one close call. From a distance, it looked like the guy was drunk. That would be very unusual in Sumatra, but there was a pickup truck that just, whistling through my hair. I felt like it clipped the mirror on my bicycle, and then the truck came so close to me. And then ahead of me, he seemed to be like weaving on the road, like maybe he was just looking at his phone and going like this, or maybe, I probably wasn't drunk. It's pretty rare in Sumatra. That was like one close call I remember. But all the big trucks, the oil trucks, the ones carrying oil palm, they went way around me. They seemed to be very aware of anything on the road slower than them, and they would they would give me a wide berth. So even though there were so many trucks and it was stressful, the noise level of it and the constant thundering past, I didn't feel particularly unsafe. But then again, I mean, it only takes one, right? You could ride there for 2 months and every single truck gave you a wide berth. But the one truck who didn't see you, yeah, you're dead. So, the risk, I mean, the result of a risk is extreme. So, yeah, at least with a tiger, if a tiger sees you, chances are you can scare it away or it's going to run away anyway. Yeah, I don't really know. But yeah, the comments, there's so many fear-based comments, way too many. And as a YouTuber, if I were seeing all those comments, I'd get a little bit impatient with them after a while. Like, okay, well, it's great that you're leaving a comment and you're trying to help me out, but maybe we can talk about something more substantive than fear. Yeah, and the other thing is Google Translate, because he's not really making an attempt to communicate. He just sort of blurts out the English word, what? He started saying thank you, like terima kasih. And even for me, dummy that I am, I have an Indonesian vocabulary of 20 words. But even for me, when I'm watching his video, I'm like, because the things that people are saying to him are pretty obvious. Like if you sat down for 10 minutes and just learned Indonesian numbers, it would just take you a long way. And like he doesn't even know the numbers. So even me, dummy that I am, I'm like, this is what they said to him. And I left a comment on this video referring to a couple of things, because he was talking to people in English about where he's going. And like he wants to get information about how far is it to this town or that town. And all the towns had sungai. So it would be Sungai Barach, Sungai something. And then he would say to them, oh, so the next town is called Sungai. I'm looking for Sungai, it's called Sungai. And he'd turn back to the camera and say, okay, the next town I'm going to is Sungai. And I'm like, I'm pulling out my hair, because I know that Sungai means river, and the name of the town is like, the river might be Bura. And then, so the name of the town is based on the river, and they call the town Sungai Bura. And so I want to say to him, no, the town, there's no town called Sungai. It just means river. And Sungai Bura, Sungai this. So I did write a comment about that. And then he was being treated to some food by this Indonesian man, and the man was saying, gado gado, because that's the name of the dish. It's this Indonesian salad, basically. It's called gado gado, very common, very popular, very well-known dish in Indonesia. Even I know what gado gado is. So the man is trying to tell him, oh, gado gado. But of course, Let's Go Cycling, he doesn't know he's even talking about the food. So what? Gado gado. He's like, huh, what? What are you talking about? And then, oh, the food, this is called, and he got it wrong. And then the guy's talking about kacang, because gado gado comes with peanut sauce. That's the key ingredient. And me, dummy that I am, even I know the guy's telling you, this is gado gado, special Indonesian meal. It includes peanut sauce, but of course, Let's Go Cycling, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But then he finally figures out, the guy says, kacang. And he tastes it. He's like, yeah, I know this. Oh, that's kacang. But he couldn't think of the English word. So I left a comment as well saying, okay, that dish is called gado gado, and kacang means peanuts. In English, the word is, the word you were trying to think of is peanut or peanuts. But again, it's kind of funny. And then other people are picking up on that he seems to be having a lot of trouble communicating, and he doesn't seem to be even trying to communicate, or at least none of his attempts to communicate are ending up on video. And that is a common problem with being a YouTuber, that you don't record everything. And I go out, even me recording, there's so much stuff that's not on video, and then someone will call me out on something and say, oh, this. And like, well, yeah, I did do that and that and that and that, but I just didn't shoot any video while I was doing that. And it's like, you can't put everything in the video. So maybe he's trying to communicate more often than we realize, but in the video, we don't see it. So everybody's trying to help him out. And in his earlier videos, I swear, out of 200 comments, 100 of them will be telling him about Google Translate. Oh, you should use Google Translate. You can use it, you know. And he's got to be getting tired of that comment. I get it all the time as well. And then, mentally you think, well, duh, of course I know about Google Translate. I use it all the time, but I don't want to take video of me constantly. Okay, I'll show them in Google Translate and then get them to say something and then look. I mean, it's a long, drawn-out process. And sometimes I record that, sometimes I don't. And in this case, maybe he's doing it. I get a sense that he's not, but he knows about Google Translate, obviously. So you don't need to tell him about it. He already knows. He's just choosing not to bother, basically. So, yeah. So I find that kind of funny. Some other interesting things in his video. He camped out one night and he was lying in his tent. Like he doesn't film his day, so it's kind of hard to get a sense of the arc of his journey. It's not like me, wake up in the morning, here I am in the morning in my hotel room, and now I have do this, and then I have lunch, and then he doesn't do that. He just sort of shoots little clips at the beginning of the day, like he's leaving his hotel. I'm on the bike riding, and then he won't shoot anything until the end of the day, like 10 hours, 12 hours later. He'll record nothing during the day, and then suddenly it jumps ahead. And in this case, he jumped all the way ahead to he's inside his tent, and he's filming himself in the tent, and sweat is just pouring down his face. He looks so hot. He says, oh, I'm here in my tent, and it is so hot. And it's so hot, he said, because the ground is hot. Like the ground underneath him is hot. And I'm thinking, dude, are you sleeping on a volcano? Like, why would you put your tent there? Anyway, in the morning, he roamed around with his camera, and he showed all of these holes in the ground, like vents with steam pouring up out of the ground, like here and here and here. And he's like, this is why it's so hot here. The ground feels really hot. And the first thing I thought of was, it must be an old garbage dump, because he wasn't on a volcano. And I thought, I bet you that's an old garbage dump where they, piles and piles of garbage, they dumped off the side of the road, and then they covered it up with dirt and rocks. And now underneath the ground, you see this all the time with garbage dumps, they produce methane gas, and the methane will actually burst into flames. And old garbage dumps will have fires coming up out of the ground because they produce methane. Or a fire will begin underground, like there's an underground fire in the garbage dump because of the compression and the heat and the rotting chemical process. And then all this heat rises to the surface with steam coming out of it. So that was my first thought. But then he went to the edge of the cliff, and I was thinking, well, at the edge of the cliff, you should be able to see remnants of garbage, but all I saw were rocks. Like shale, like layers and layers of rocks. So I thought, okay, maybe it's not a garbage dump, but could it possibly be volcanic? Like, did he put his tent on a field of volcanic vents? Anyway, I still think it's a garbage dump, but I'm not entirely positive, volcanic or garbage. But anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. He even said that during the night he had to move his tent because where he was so hot, he had to move to another spot. And I thought, dude, Like all these people warning him about dangers of tigers and snakes and whatnot. And man, you just put yourself in a very dangerous place. Yeah, it seemed unwise, even for me. Like I said, I don't believe in the culture of fear and being afraid of everything in the world. But I don't know, this felt like this was a time when a bit of fear would have done him well. I think common sense would have said, I don't know what's creating all this heat, but I'm getting the heck out of here. I'm certainly not going to sleep here overnight in the middle of all these hot vents of boiling gas. I don't know. It just struck me as really, really quite something that he would put up his tent there. And nobody really commented on it. That was the one big danger in his video. But one person did say, oh, I think that was a garbage dump. So somebody agreed with me. But nobody was saying volcano or garbage. That was a pretty dangerous place to set up your tent. If not dangerous, pretty uncomfortable. But maybe he rode way into the dark and he had trouble finding a place to put his tent, and this was the only flat area available. So it was either there or nowhere. He doesn't talk a lot. All of his videos basically consist of saying, wow, look at the mountain. Wow, look at the river. Wow, look at the scenery. Beyond that, he doesn't really talk. He doesn't tell stories. So, yeah, you have to. I'm busy being a detective. Like, he doesn't even really talk about where he is. There's no Google Maps. He doesn't put text on the screen, the names of anything. But I'm always looking in the background. If he's in front of a business, I see a sign in the background. I type that into Google Maps and I locate it in the town. I think, oh, okay, because I know in Sumatra roughly where he is. And then every time I see something in the video, I'm constantly doing Google searches, and then I slowly piece together the route that he followed. But yeah, his journey is a little bit of a mystery to me, because I'm pretty sure this one video, it's about 24 minutes long, but I think it covered 4 days of cycling, 3 at least. And then at one point he was leaving a town and there was a hotel in the background, and he said, yeah, I stayed here for 3 days. I was like, whoa, 3 days there? Why would you stay? Like, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would do it. For me, I stay 3 days without breaking a sweat. But for him, he seems like a more serious traveler. And I thought, you stayed there for 3 days? I thought maybe he was like, I would do it if I were working on videos. Daniel in Ipoh, he extended his stay, and the main reason he did is because he had a backlog of 4, maybe 5 videos to finish. So he stayed there for 3 days, editing video day and night. But this guy, Let's Go Cycling, he doesn't do that, because one video is 24 minutes long, and that video covers like a week, like one video per week covering a long period. So you wouldn't have a backlog. So I'm like, why did you stay 3 days? But he never explained it. And then at the end of the video, I connected the dots. Okay, where did he start? I think he started here, and I know exactly where he ended because it's in his video title. That's where the video ended. And the distance at most was 150 kilometers. And I think, well, what is going on? Like 150 kilometers in 7 days. I'm slow, but that is, for him, that would be super, super slow. Like even Daniel, American Hobo, on his $100 bike, he does 100 kilometers a day when he's cycling sometimes. He can do 2 or 3 days in a row where he's doing 100 plus kilometers every day. And Let's Go Cycling seems like a much more hardcore cyclist. I thought he was like covering vast distances because he's a real cyclist. So I was so surprised after all these days. 100 kilometers? Maybe 150 at the most? It's kind of weird. So it does make me wonder where he hopes to go, because if he only has 30 days on his original visa like I would, where's he going? And at that rate, he's barely going to make it anywhere. So his visa is going to expire in no time. So anyway, it's kind of interesting. But again, he doesn't really talk about logistics. He never talks about what he's doing, what he's thinking, what his plans are. He just sort of, his videos are very popular. So I talk about all these things in these videos that are, from my point of view, incomplete. Like, I want so much more content. And then even in his traveling style, I want more. All I see are things that are missing. But then when I go to his channel, yeah, there he is, Let's Go Cycling. Even this video, well, not as many as you would think. Maybe the view numbers are going to start to go down. I don't know. He posted this one 18 hours ago, and it has about 8,000 views. So, yeah, I mean, that's way more than my videos ever get. So whatever thoughts I have about his video style, he's doing everything right, and I'm doing everything wrong. So, you know, going back over his Indonesian videos, 26,000, 28,000, 23,000, 22, 25. I mean, if I could get 25,000 views per video, I would be on cloud 9, because that would actually produce, I think, enough income for me just to live low budget for the entire month. That would actually allow me to just keep traveling for the rest of my life if I could get 25,000 views per video. And it doesn't seem like a terribly difficult benchmark to reach. And yet everything I've ever done never ever gets close to that. So I really should just change my style and just do something very different from what I normally do. But anyway, yeah, his latest video, unforgettable. The way they welcomed me here shocked me. And 8,000 views in 18 hours. And the video before that was 5 days ago. So, in that video, as I talked about, he passed by all of these amazing places in West Sumatra, and he didn't go to any of them, not a single one. And nobody criticizes him for it. It feels like, I'm pretty sure that if I, went to this area, which I did do, Bukittinggi, and I went to all the places, but if I didn't, I'd hear about it. People, what? You didn't go to the Harau Valley? What are you thinking? You didn't go to Padang? Everyone would be saying, but for him, he gets a pass no matter what he does. He gets a pass, which is pretty interesting. But I guess he's very personable. He's good at telling a story, more cinematic. Like this video, for example, the opening shot is of him lying on the floor, pretending to be sleeping. So he already woke up, obviously, and he got out of, he wasn't in a bed, he was just sleeping on the floor. And then he got his, whether it was his smartphone or his GoPro, I'm not sure, he put it on a tripod, and then he got it recording. Then he went back, lay down on the floor, closed his eyes, and then he pretended to wake up, and he gave a big stretch. Most of his videos begin with a big stretch, pretending that he's waking up every morning. So he films that, and then he just jumps ahead to now he's on the road. Like there's no preamble, there's no discussion, there's no talking, there's no information, there's no Google Maps, there's nothing. And then, but it does tell a story of adventure, and it's only 24 minutes long. I think 24, this one. Yep. So it's easily digestible. The American Hobo, he's not getting the Malaysian bump that I talked about. Every vlogger who comes to Malaysia, their views skyrocket, but it's not happening to the American Hobo. I feel bad about that. I feel like he should get the Malaysian bump. But his videos are over an hour long, and he's posting an hour-long video every day. I watch all of them. He's the only vlogger I watch the whole video from beginning to end. All of them, because I find his style interesting. They suit me and my personality. But for YouTube, that's not normal. So maybe the key, I keep thinking about that, the key really is shorter videos, and that will make all the difference. The guy, I talked about this the other day, the guy at the Carnival, I met him one day told him about my YouTube channel, I saw him again the next day, and he was looking at me, and then he said, yeah, I went to your channel. Why? Your videos, oh, so big, so long, why? I mean, he was like, why? You know, I can't watch an hour-long video. I don't care how good it is, and like, why are you doing that? So that might be, he might have been the in the concentrated YouTube perspective. Too long. Like, come on, dude. You can't expect us to watch your video for an hour. Whatever. 20 minutes. Let's get that going and see what happens. But then again, I've talked about this in the past. There was a time, I've thought about this so many times, when I was in Thailand, and then I decided to experiment, and I made a series of 20-minute videos, shorter videos, and made no difference. Nobody watched those videos either. So maybe you have to keep it up over more time. So I have been thinking that, assuming I get on my bike and I do, like, I've got a month and a half left here in Sumatra, assuming I'm not sick anymore, I can start cycling. Maybe I can do a cycling journey, a month and a half, and just put out videos like his. Don't be so heavy into information. Don't worry about the history, the culture, the meaning of anything. Just let that go. Film more cinematic, more of a story, and shorter. Aim for 20 minutes. Yeah, I'll have more to say about that, my next video that I'm going to talk about. But yeah, I think I don't know if that's everything I wanted to say about Let's Go Cycling. Yeah, I think that's it. I guess I was unfair to him because in my previous video, because his last video, I left some like detailed information comments, and then days went by and nothing happened, like he didn't reply to them, and there was no like or anything like that. And I felt a bit silly, to be honest, that I spent all that time I research my comments. If I have something to say, I do my own fact checking before I write anything. I make sure what I'm writing about is correct. So this whole thing for the American Hobo about that valley and the tin mining and the history of Ipoh, I knew all that already, but I wanted to make sure, so I did research. So my comment on his channel probably took me 45 minutes to write the comment, because I get involved in the history and reading. And you invest all of that in leaving a comment on someone's YouTube channel, and then it just sits there unacknowledged. Then you start to feel a bit silly. It's like, why am I wasting my time doing this? And then I went back to his video and I deleted my comments, because I thought, well, if you're not even interested, why am I? And I just deleted them. But I wrote 2 comments on this video about the gado and stuff like that. And then at least he hearted them. Heart. He loved them. That's another funny thing on YouTube, that I make a strong distinction between like and love, like and heart. I figure if you've got a system, take advantage of it. So if I like a comment, yeah, like is almost like acknowledging your comment. I've seen it. And the only reason I won't like a comment is if I actively dislike it. I think it was dumb, or it was not a good comment or something. I just won't touch it. In the old days, we had like, dislike. You could like and dislike everything. But YouTube, becoming politically correct, removed the dislike button, which I think is such a dumb thing to do. But anyway, but then, yeah, for me, like is the baseline. But if someone leaves a comment on one of my videos where they clearly put a lot of work into it and they give me a lot of useful information, or it's very personal, well, yeah, I love that. And I want to let them know. So love. I like that idea because, as I said, there is a system in place for grades, like and love. Why not use it if it's there? But I've noticed that most YouTubers ignore the like button when it comes to comments. And what they do is they'll see however many comments there are, they just go love, 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 love. They just scroll down the entire list of comments and hit heart on all of them, which to me, I don't know, it feels like when I see every single comment is given a heart, to me that means none of them got a heart, because all the YouTuber did was like on autopilot, just like a bot. going every comment, love, 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 love. So it's kind of a meaningless thing. Like maybe the person who left the comment, they get a notification, so-and-so hearted your comment. Oh, nice, they saw it. You get some acknowledgement that you left a comment. But I mean, you could do the same thing with like, and yeah. So I would just distinguish between like and love. Just sort of a random tangent from Planet Doug, the strange world that I inhabit. An Itchy Boots video, her latest one, called First They Steal My Motorcycle, and Now This. I am leaving Wales! Exclamation mark. So, yeah, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to comment on the clickbait, my overly sensitive nature. But yeah, like when I saw the video title, I thought, whoa, I'm leaving Wales. I've had enough of this place. They stole my motorcycle, and now this happened. So I'm thinking, I mean, the title to me is implying that a second terrible thing happened in Wales, and she's fed up, and she's gonna leave Wales now. But of course, when you watch the video, in reality, she's on a book tour, and she's on a schedule. She was always going to leave Wales at this point. Her bike being stolen and what had nothing to do with her leaving Wales. They're like two separate statements. Like, first they steal my motorcycle and now this, one thing. And then, oh, by the way, I'm leaving Wales. Like my time in Wales is over, because she's following a set schedule for a book tour. And when you watch the video, it turns out that what she's referring to is that she came across quite a rough, rocky road. Like she's doing her usual kind of taking the smaller secondary roads and even pathways, things like that. And then she found herself on a route that turned into a very steep incline with loose, very large, loose rocks. And clearly you can't ride a motorcycle like that there. So she had to turn around and go back and find a different way. Though oddly enough, even as she says in the video, she says it herself that, well, even though my route was blocked because the road was so bad, it turned out in my favor because the new road she was on was amazing, like stunning scenery, just gorgeous, gorgeous Welsh countryside with lakes and mountains and curving green. I mean, it was just amazing, stunningly beautiful. So for her, running into a rocky road ended up being good for her. So this whole implication that first they steal my motorcycle and now this rocky road, I've had enough of Wales, I'm out of here. The whole thing is clickbait, gotta be honest. Not a lot of people agree with me about my sensitivity to clickbait, but yeah, it's definitely clickbait. And yeah, again, I don't know why she does it, because she'll get 1 million views and everybody loves her, so she doesn't really need to do anything other than she could just write a normal title and it would work fine. One interesting thing she's doing is leaving free copies of her book here and there. It's kind of a very cool marketing thing for the video, because she's on a book tour and she has a few copies of her book. I think it's called Free Ride in English, or Ride Free? Yeah, I was just going to say free ride. That doesn't sound good to me in English. It's probably called Ride Free. I'll have to look it up. But anyway, she has a couple of copies in her bags. And then in Wales, she's finding these free book lending libraries. Like she came across an old phone booth. And of course, it's not a phone anymore. They converted it into a little library with shelves, and people just fill it with books, and anybody can come, take a book, leave a book, kind of thing. So what she's doing in her video is when she sees one of these, she signs her book. And yeah, that's why I was thinking of the title, because I think she even wrote the title as part of her signature, like Ride Free Norley and Heart or whatever, signs it. And then she puts the book into this little phone booth lending library, leave one, take one library. And that's a very cool thing. I like that idea. Again, I don't know how many people read books, particularly a paperback, but I'm sure her book is selling quite well. As she said, it was on all the bestseller lists, like the New York Times bestseller, da-da-da. She's at the top of all of the bestseller lists, so she's doing very, very well. Yeah, Nora Lee, man, she is a force of nature when it comes to YouTube and traveling by motorcycle. Yeah, quite something. But yeah, beyond that, there was really nothing else to say. Beautiful scenery. She flew her drone at one point. There's castles. And enjoyable video from beginning to end. But nothing dramatic in it, nothing to get that excited about. Just a pleasant little travel video. Nothing wrong with that. Another YouTube video I just want to mention in passing, just because I watched it and I got sucked into the story. I can't help it. This is from Brendan Kavanaugh. I've talked about him before. He's from the UK and he's a boogie woogie piano player. I don't know how he makes all his money. Based on this video, the new one, he seems to be a pretty wealthy man. So did he make all this money from YouTube? I have no idea, but he plays the piano in public places and records it live and posts videos to YouTube. And of course, he's famous for me. I had never heard of the guy until, I'm not into boogie woogie piano music anyway, I don't even like it. But he had an encounter with a Chinese tour group, and it blew up on social media into this big scandal where the leaders of the tour group came up to him and asked him to delete them from their video. Because I guess he was filming himself and they were in the background, and then they came up to him and said, oh, we don't want to be on video, can you please delete that video? And it turned into a big thing where the Chinese tour group got upset, called in security was talking to him, and it ended up in this online flame war with the Chinese support groups attacking him, and it was a big drama, and I followed it for quite a while. I don't have a horse in the race. I don't have a particular interest in the public perception of China, whether you're talking about the people of China or the Chinese Communist Party, the government, and all that kind of stuff. I don't have much in the way to say about that, but it was just sort of the social media drama of it all. I got sucked into it, and I followed that story for a long time. And he has a new one, a brand new one. He seems to be a friend of mine sent me the link, and knowing I'd be interested in saying in his message, drama seems to follow this guy because there's a new one. In the video, the first one is called Police Arrest Me and My Wife at Home, Security Footage. And this is turning into a big story. He's posted lots of update videos, and this is going to go on for a while. But the basic story, according to him, according to Dr. K, it turns out on his property, quite a large property, many buildings and a barn and this and that, he has his own chapel. And somehow or other, whether he invited this priest or the priest was just part of the community. Anyway, this priest came and gave a mass in his chapel, and something about him set off alarm bells for Dr. K, for Brendan Kavanaugh, and he started doing some research, sent some emails to find out about the background of this priest, and Dr. K says he was informed that this man was defrocked. Like in another country, he was a priest, and then he was accused of child molestation, and he was defrocked. He's no longer a priest of the Catholic Church. But then he came to the UK, and he is now acting as a priest. And I guess there's some sort of a sect of the Catholic Church that operates differently, and he's still part of that group. Or anyway, Dr. K is calling him fake father, that he's not even a priest. He was kicked out of he was defrocked in another country because of these accusations, but now he's in the UK and he's pretending to be a priest, and he's calling him the fake father. So when he discovered this, he wrote emails to the local diocese, the local church, to the local bishop, and was basically telling them about this man who is pretending to be a Catholic priest when he is not anymore. And then somehow or other, the fake father and the bishop lodged a complaint with the police against Dr. K, accusing him of harassment and posting these things to social media and encouraging his followers to attack the priest and beat him up. That was the accusation that was given to the police. And then, out of nowhere, the police arrived at Dr. K's house in force. A lot of police officers in multiple vehicles. And this is all on security camera, so there's no debate about what actually happened. The police showed up, said he had been accused of these crimes. They were there to investigate. They handcuffed him, handcuffed his wife, brought them both to prison, searched their house, took away all their electronics, and then they were released on bail. This all happened in front of their children, which is what Dr. K makes a big deal about, that his children were terrified and caused trauma for them. And then they were released on bail, and then 2 months later, after the investigation, all the charges were dropped. But now he's talking about what happened. He's putting it out there in video, posting the security camera footage and ongoing drama with the police. He's considering suing the police for false arrest, and he's following up on all these issues with the fake priest. Anyway, that is what the video was all about, and I find all that kind of drama sort of irresistible. So I'm following that story now. And I only mention it not because it's important, not that I think people should know about it, but it just happens to be something that I became aware of, and I watched the videos, so I put it into my podcast, YouTube story section. I mean, honestly, as someone on the outside of the drama, the key fact in the case is, what did he say in his emails? Because we've got a he said, she said situation, right? Dr. K says, in my emails, I was angry, but I made no threats. The fake father and the bishop are saying he threatened and he libeled us because he made these accusations on public forums and encouraged people to beat up the priest. And then Dr. K says, no, I did not do that. So now we've got a he said, she said, and unless we see all the emails, we'll never know what the real truth is, which is always the case in these situations. Dr. K may end up posting the full text of all his emails. He seems to be quite upfront about this. But just in a weird sort of aside, he posted another video kind of related to this, I guess, because he was subjected to another complaint. And this complaint led to the Housing Council. Like the UK seems to be heavily restricted, that there are councils and people in authority all over the place, and they can do all kinds of things to you. And this House Council representative showed up again at his property and said, we received a complaint about you, that you are running an unlicensed cafe. And if you are, we have to charge you with all these crimes, we have to fine you, we have to shut down this cafe. And this woman came out to investigate. And the whole thing to me is also like, what the heck is so bizarre? Because it turns out that his daughter, a young girl, in the barn had set up a fake cafe, just like a child's dollhouse, where I guess she's just interested in coffee shops and cafes, and just for fun, she and her friends put a table there, like a tea party. She basically had a tea party with her friends, and then she put up a little booth, and then pretended that she was the owner of the cafe, and then friends would come and they would pretend that they're at this tea house kind of thing. And they actually use monopoly money to pay for the coffee and the tea. And when Dr. K showed this to the councilwoman investigator, the table had a whole bunch of stuffed animals on it. Like every chair had a teddy bear sitting in the chair, and says, listen, okay, we do have a cafe, but it's a child's play cafe, and here it is, and you see it on video. So that was kind of funny. But what struck me is that the whole video is Dr. K and his wife talking to this councilwoman investigator, and neither Dr. K nor his wife would ever be quiet. Like, just like, would you please shut your mouth? Like, let the poor woman say something. Like Dr. K, I couldn't even understand what he was saying half the time. He went on and on and on and on and on. He told the same thing over and over again. Yeah, they made this complaint and I don't know what's going on. We have a cafe. So, and he would repeat. He just never, ever, ever stopped talking. And his wife was talking at the same time. They were talking over each other. And this poor woman, the council investigator, was like, they never, ever stopped babbling at her. And me watching the video, I just about lost my mind. It's like, would you please shut up? Just stop. You know, it was really kind of weird. So it gave me a different glimpse into their personality. And it kind of made me start to understand maybe why he ends up in the middle of all this drama, because he seemed very abrasive. Like, I can see how people would get annoyed that in his interactions with the community and other people might like kind of react the same way. If he's always like the two of them, I'm like, like stop talking for 1 minute. And I can see maybe there's a personality trait here where he is a little bit of a drama magnet, where other people don't get into this kind of trouble because they handle themselves in a little bit more socially acceptable way. That was just a little thought I had while I was watching the video from Dr. K. But yeah, it does seem, this is not the first story like this I've seen. I've seen a number of them from the UK where there seem to be laws there where you can be arrested for your social media post. Like you say something in, like on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, that is sort of critical of something or someone, and then somebody complains to the police, they will come arrest you for what you said on social media. And then there has to be an investigation, like you've been accused of a crime, innocent or not, whatever you said on social media, you are still charged with that crime until you are proven innocent. And you can see how that would be a terrible problem in society, where totally innocent people, like, I don't know, I've seen it in Thailand actually, where YouTubers would go to spend the night in a hotel or go have a meal at a restaurant, and then they would have a negative experience at that hotel, and they review it, and they describe what happened. Oh, yeah, we had a bad experience here, and they talk about the hotel. And then that hotel in Thailand legally can sue them, and quite often foreigners end up arrested and in jail, because the legal system is always going to favor the Thai person. If the Thai business owner lodges a complaint against a foreign YouTuber or tourist, the foreigner is at a disadvantage and they are going to end up in jail, and then they're going to have to make public apologies and that sort of thing. So I've seen it in Thailand, but UK seems to have a similar sort of thing where you can say something like, oh yeah, I went to that coffee shop and the coffee was cold and this and that, and then this coffee shop owner can have you arrested for saying negative things about them. And then until you can prove what you said was acceptable, you're still being charged with a crime based on a social media posting. That seems to be going on a lot in the UK. And I think there are a couple of big cases of that made headlines in the news. And of course, there is always the angle, in these stories you see it all the time, where a lot of police and a lot of police resources came to Dr. K's property to investigate him for writing an email. And yet, people in the UK have the sense that the police are doing nothing about real crime, that crime in the UK is rampant. You get all the snatchers on motorbikes everywhere. There's just like crime, theft everywhere. And the perception is that the police are doing nothing about the real criminals, but then somebody lodges a complaint about an email, and now they hit your property with 3 vans, 10 police, big investigation. They confiscate all of your property, and they're like, come on, like, can't you, let's do something about real crime. This is like a misallocation of police resources, and they're saying basically that the legal system in the UK is broken, that there's something seriously wrong with it, and this is an example of that. So it is an interesting story from that perspective. I don't know what the truth of that is, but I mean, I have seen lots of stories from the UK, very similar to stories out of the United States sometimes, where, for example, in the UK, for safety reasons, the police are not allowed to chase a motorcycle thief above a certain speed. They always have to break off the pursuit. So you saw video after video after video of somebody on a scooter. They snatch somebody's smartphone and they race away, and the police just let them go because legally they are not allowed to chase them. And that ended up being a huge problem. And then they changed the law and said, okay, now you can chase them. And so there's this tension too in the law. Where do you draw the line in terms of letting a thief getting away or chasing them, and then at high speeds you're risking the lives of bystanders, totally innocent people? Like, it's a very difficult balance to achieve. It's almost like a spectrum. And in the UK, they went so far in the direction of protecting innocent people that they were just letting thieves escape. And you see that in the US right now with the shoplifting waves, where you can't charge anybody with a crime anymore, or that seems to be the feeling. So flash mobs of 100 people will just go into a store, just grab everything off the shelves and just run out the front door, and nobody's arresting them. And there seems to be that problem. And then this pendulum has swung that far, and now it's starting to swing back in the other direction. It's like, okay, now you can chase the criminal, and if they crash and die, well, that's on them. The high-speed chase was their fault, not the police's fault, that kind of thing. Anyway, Brendan Kavanaugh back in the social media spotlight. One quick pop culture item for the pop culture roundup, and I may have talked about this already, but I don't feel like I have. I recently watched the movie Forbidden Planet, classic film from 1956, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, directed by Fred Wilcox, and it stars Leslie Nielsen. Everybody knows Leslie Nielsen from all the spoof movies. He's more of a comedy kind of actor. But back in those days, 1956, he was more of a heartthrob. He was a young man. He was a movie cinema star, and he was the main heartthrob and the main character. He was the hero of Forbidden Planet. And I have a feeling I've watched Forbidden Planet in the past, and yet when I watched it this time, it felt brand new. It's like, I thought I watched this because I know all about it, but maybe I never did. Anyway, this time it felt like I was watching it for the first time. And it's pretty obvious to me why it is such a famous movie. Science fiction, of course, Forbidden Planet, all about spaceships and aliens and all this kind of stuff. But apparently it was the very first science fiction movie to have a faster than light spaceship. That was like a new concept where you could actually go faster than light and then go anywhere in the galaxy, anywhere in the universe, because speed is no longer a limiting factor. And then what I noticed is when they got to the Forbidden Planet, they found there were other humans on the planet. They came there earlier on another spaceship. And in fact, the spaceship with Leslie Nielsen on it, that was a rescue mission because they stopped hearing from the other spaceship. So now they went out there to investigate, and then they land on this planet, and there's one man still alive and his daughter, and he tells them about this alien race called the Krell. And I found the Krell to be fascinating because the normal science fiction thing is so kind of goofy, where people's imagination didn't go far enough. Where, okay, aliens Oh, they go beep, 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 boop, boop, and they have little antenna on their head, and they're green, and they probe people. And that's all they could think of when they come up with aliens. Like, they didn't really go much farther than that. But in Forbidden Planet, it seems like the storyline feels like it could be from modern times. Like somebody in 2025 would come up with this idea, because the ideas are just so big compared to what you normally see in 1956. So for example, the Krell aliens, according to the man telling the story, he says their civilization was from 200,000 years ago. So just the scale of that, when I heard that in the video, in the movie, I was like, whoa. Because from that time period, they wouldn't think about the scale of the universe being so vast that you could come across an alien civilization that died out 200,000 years ago. And then when they talk about the Krell, at one point in the movie, the main guy on the planet, he took Leslie Nielsen and his crew members down into an underground facility that had been built by the Krell. And it was massive. I think I have some things here. So this is an underground machine. It's basically one machine that is 8,000 cubic miles in size. 8,000 cubic miles, and it's powered by 9,200 thermonuclear reactors. And they show this on the video, and I was kind of blown away. It was like, look at the scale of this thing. They spent a long time down there in this underground machine, 8,000 cubic miles, huge, like the scale of it, like going up into the sky and down into the planet, and for hundreds of miles, whatever, in all directions. It was crazy. Never seen anything like that in science fiction before. And this machine has the power to alter reality. So it actually takes thought, what you think, and physically manifests it. So that alone was like, whoa, for 1956, that is a deep, big story, much bigger story than you would think for the 1950s. Like, what kind of imagination came up with this idea? It seemed far too modern to me. And on top of that, it was much deeper thematically, because as far as I didn't pick up on it. Well, to be honest, no, I have to be fair to myself. I did pick up on it. The story is Shakespearean, and it's based on The Tempest, a Shakespeare play called The Tempest. And it is all about the human subconscious. So it's very Freudian, the id in your subconscious. And the whole, the thing, well, I guess I don't know if I want to give away the story, because maybe somebody will watch it, but it's from 1956. Anyway, if you don't want any spoilers, don't listen to me anymore. So you're clear. Spoiler alert. Stop listening if you don't want to know what happens in the movie. But the thing is that there is a monster, an invisible monster on the planet that killed everybody on the first spaceship and is trying to kill everybody on the new spaceship. And that's what is driving the story, this invisible monster, powerful creature that's killing everybody. And they think maybe this is the monster that killed the Krell, that wiped out the Krell civilization. And it turns out it was because of this machine, because the machine takes your deepest unconscious primal urges and makes it real. And the man on the planet, I think because he wanted to protect his daughter, created this monster, and this monster killed all the men. So the scientist was actually creating the monster. It was his subconscious. So anyway, you see what I mean? Freudian, the id, the subconscious, this 8,000 cubic mile machine from a civilization that died 200,000 years ago. The story was so much bigger and deeper in terms of psychology and thematic elements than I ever expected. And of course it had Robbie the robot, and Robbie the robot is iconic. and went on to inspire all the robots in movie history. And Robbie was just amazing. What a creation Robbie was. Really, really sticks with you. As a movie, I have to say it was lacking though, because there was such a deep story. There was a lot of exposition, just telling the background of the Krell on and on and on and on. There's so much exposition that it wasn't even a movie anymore. So it's not really very entertaining. So that would be my criticism. Great movie, inspiring movie, influential movie, really worth watching, but it really isn't that entertaining. And it's really dated as well, because we've got the scientist and his daughter is an attractive young woman in kind of revealing mini skirts and things like that. And all the men on the spaceship were like pursuing her in a 1950s way, which from a 2025 point of view was so cringy. It was like, it was hard to even watch it because it felt so old-fashioned. You know, it's like, I can't remember the language they were using, but the way all these men were fawning over her and competing with each other for her attention and trying to lure her into the secluded forest so they can kiss. You know, they've got to have a little kiss. There's nothing wrong with a little kiss. And it was just so immature and so 1950s. It was kind of embarrassing. So the movie was very dated from that point of view, very campy, put it that way. And so as a movie, very dated and not very entertaining. But the technology that they used, and what I found out, I was so amazed at the sets and the technology. It felt so different from other science fiction movies. I did some research and I found out the reason for that is they spent a lot of money. Their budget for this movie was huge. So they had all the money to create the spaceship and the guns and the special effects that most science fiction movies of that day, they didn't have that kind of budget. So you really see it, the production value is leagues higher than other movies from that era. So that was very cool. Yeah, I enjoyed that quite a bit. So anyway, Pop Culture Roundup, The Forbidden Planet from 1956, starring Leslie Nielsen. Yeah, really interesting film. And that's it for the Planet Doug podcast. I think I'm going to wind down for today. I hope you enjoyed some of the things I was babbling about there. There is one other movie I was going to talk about, but now I'm thinking maybe I already talked about it. So I'm going to check to make sure I'm not repeating myself, and I'll go look it up in my previous podcast, make sure I haven't talked about it. And if I haven't, I'll include it in the next podcast. So for the rest of today, I may go get a haircut. I may go buy some antibiotics. I want to see whether I'm still feeling ill or not. And we'll see what happens with that. And I have to plan for getting out of here to hop on my bike, go for a bike ride. I have to, like I said, the main decision I have to make is when I leave Sumatra, do I take the risk and go back to Port Dickson? The advantage to that is I can return here and leave some luggage here that I don't need to bring with me, lighten my load, or plan to leave from Dumai. But Dumai is pretty far away, and the advantage is I can go to Malacca by boat. And I have to make that decision. I'll figure that out. And then I'll start packing. So once I start packing, I have to decide, am I packing to bring everything with me, or am I packing to leave a bunch of stuff behind and pick it up later? So we'll see what I end up doing. All right, that is it. As always, go check out the Planet Doug Patreon. I just sent out a message to people saying for the monthly or semi-monthly or bi-monthly Ask Me Anything video, if you have any questions. So the Ask Me Anything video for June is going to show up there on the Patreon. It's going to be posted to Planet Doug Behind the Scenes, of course. But if you want to leave a question for me, you can do that on the Patreon. And then Planet Doug Behind the Scenes, you find all these podcasts. And then my travel videos. Maybe for my cycling video, I'll really try hard to make 20-minute videos, make them more cinematic, more storytelling. Keep that up for a while and see what happens. But I don't know. Not to start up another tangent here, but when I think about making shorter videos, part of the problem is even making shorter videos strikes me as really boring because I enjoy shooting video. Like when I get organized for a day of shooting video, my plan is to record the whole day, and I enjoy that. It's what's driving the day for me. So like if I'm taking the train from Medan to here, there's all the steps, getting to the train station, going through the ticket counter, getting on the train, going to the coffee lounge, the dining car, chatting with people, arriving, seeing the scenery of the countryside, reading a book on the train, arriving in Tanjung Balai, navigating the train station, getting on a Becek, hotel, unpacking. In my mind, before the day has begun, I'm already looking forward to recording all of those things. And if you record all of those things, your video is an hour long. There's no getting away from it. And I like that. And I like talking about things. I like storytelling. And I can tell that if I'm going to make a 20-minute video, I have to pick and choose, and I won't be recording everything. It'll be more like the recording is an afterthought. Do you know what I mean? Like the traveling is the main activity, and then once in a while, I just pick up the camera and record a little bit. Record 2 minutes here, 2 minutes here, 2 minutes here, 5 minutes here, and then, but to me, that's really boring. It's like what am I going to do the rest of the time? Like if throughout an entire day, I'm only recording for 10 2-minute clips to make a 20-minute video, what am I doing all the time in between? Right? Like I want to be recording all the time because I love working on a project. And if I just record, like let's go cycling, I could have started at my hotel and I wake up, it's like, that's 2 minutes. And then we jump ahead. Now I'm on the train and I'm filming the outside world. Oh, here I am on the train. 2 minutes. I arrive at Tanjung Balai. Okay, but I was on the train for 4.5 hours. And if I only record for 2 minutes, what am I doing the other 4 hours and 28 minutes? You know what I mean? It's like, what am I going to do all day if I'm not filming? I've never heard any YouTuber talk about that, but it jumps out at me right away. As soon as I try to record a short video, then it occurs to me that, well, then what do I do for the whole rest of the day? Just sit in my chair on the train? Do nothing? No, I want to be out recording, investigating, looking, talking to people, and that results in an hour-long video. Anyway, those are my thoughts. So that's it. There could be 20-minute videos on Planet Doug. There could be my normal hour-long videos on Planet Doug. We'll wait and see. So that's it. Shutting down. See you in the next video.